Hello and welcome to coverage of the 28th edition of the XTERRA World Championships from the Italian Dolomites, Molveno, set on the banks of Lake Molveno for the third time in a row now since this race moved from its Hawaii heartland. We arrived back in the Brenta Dolomites in Italy. Unbelievable scenery, trails and a lake that are set for a perfect World Championship here today in the Brenta Dolomites at the end of an incredible 7-stop World Cup series that are going to be recapping in just a moment. My name's 𝐤𝐸 and I have with me Nicole Walters. We're going to be talking you through the elite men's race and the elite women's race that are due to start in a little over 10 minutes time. We zoom using our drone there across the short track course that was the scene for the racing on Thursday, the penultimate round of the World Cup. We started of course in Taiwan way back in March, then went to Greece and then moved on to Oak Mountain in Shelby County in the United States of America before transitioning to Namur and a race to the Citadel in Belgium before onwards to Quebec in Canada, of course, getting deeper into the year. We then went to the Czech Republic and Prahatice for the European Championships before we arrived here in the Dolomites in the far north of Italy for the World Championships. Let's look back at the season as it went though. Starting out in Kenting in Taiwan on the beautiful dusty trails way back in March. It was Solène Billouin starting the year as she intended to continue. And Felix Farissier doing likewise, finishing ahead of Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen, the Dane, showing how much he'd come on over the winter. We then went to Greece and Bugliameni, the sea swim and the bike proving to the very much the liking of Solène Billouin, who ran away on the lumpy, rocky run, of course, to take her win again. In the men's race, we were delighted to see both Farissier brothers racing together. It's not something we've continued to see, but come to finish, they were split by a mistake through our Felix Farissier, leaving his brother Arthur to take his win. He's been out for the rest of the season with injury, unfortunately. We had a short track race just after that, of course, in Oak Mountain. Sandra Meyerhofer winning the full distance race in Oak Mountain. The Italian getting her win of the season there before the next day Solène Billouin taking the short track win back on top ahead of Annette Grantmüller, who once again was showing how well she had improved her mountain bike over the course of the winter. Felix Farissier was racking up more wins again, and Arthur Serrier coming back for the short track race ahead of Felix Farissier. Once again we were seeing that the battle between Felix Farissier and Arthur Serrier was set to go season long. Well, in Namur in Belgium we weren't able to swim, so we had a duathlon, and that was very much to the liking of Sandra Meyerhofer, the Italian, taking the win ahead of Solène Billouin. Unfortunately at the start, Max Chanet having a problem with that big pack opening run, and talking of packs, we had a pack on the bike too. Without the swim, it really made things swing in the favour of Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen, who took his World Cup win in Belgium. And Sandra Meyerhofer then stepping into continued brilliant form as we moved on to Quebec and the wonderful mountain bike trails in Canada. Solène Billouin winning both the short track and the full distance races in Canada. Arthur Serrier would not have everything his way. This was his slip-up mid-season, really, handing the win to Felix Farissier. Felix Farissier so consistent throughout this season. Well, mid-season, Arthur Serrier went off to altitude, had a big training block and came back absolutely flying. In Czechia, Prahatice, Serrier was the winner in the full distance race. Loan de Voisin chose to start her XTERRA season in Czechia, in Prahatice, and she took the win in the full distance race. Arthur Serrier also showing that his mid-season training block had really worked. That was before Solène Billouin returned again to the top after Loan de Voisin showing her form. Billouin delighted in Czechia. Well, Felix Farissier, knowing by this point he had a healthy lead in the World Cup, it came down to a sprint finish in the short track race between him and Arthur Serrier. What chance of that happening again this week? Well, I'll show you, because on Thursday we had the short track race. This was the women setting off with 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿 in the gold swim cap as World Cup leader in light rain and blustery conditions. It was Annette Grabmüller in the lead going into the mountain bike, but 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿 did what she does, chased Grabmüller back, and then took, in the end, a very dominant win in the short track here in Molveno on Thursday. For the men, it was a close, tight pack after the swim that formed this pack on the bike. In the end, 3 athletes would go to the finish, though. Félix Farissier, Arthur Serrière, and young Sullivan Middaugh, the 22-year-old American, choosing this final stop on the World Cup Series to take his inaugural World Cup win. Let's hear then from our 2 World Cup leaders, 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿 and Arthur Serrière, in just a moment. Here are the standings, though, as we go into this final round, today's World Championships. Félix Farissier comfortably leading from Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen. Sloth-Nielsen's consistently chasing back, seeing him in 2nd place in the World Cup. 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿, a very clear World Cup leader. And after our short track, Alice Patier has moved 1 place ahead of Marta Mendito. Patier won the World Cup last year. She has stated it's all about trying to win the World Championships. So there's Farissier, and we pick out Sullivan Middaugh as a big man to watch, the 22-year-old today. Despite his World Cup ranking, he's been racing in the States a lot this year. We'll see him as a threat after his short track win. 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿's closest competition may well be coming from Loane Duvoisin, who proved when she took her win back in Czechia that she will be a big threat. Let's hear then from our 2 World Cup leaders, Félix Farissier and 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿.
Yeah, as you said, it's unpredictable weather, so I'm not gonna train for something specific because I have no idea how the weather is gonna be. And I felt like I didn't spend a lot of time at home this season, so I just decided to stay home and train really well. And yeah, I didn't train for tough conditions, but I know it suits me well, and I'm usually good as I shown it like the last 2 years when it's cold and muddy and tough. So I just trained a lot at home with good weather, so I didn't get sick. And then if it's tough conditions this weekend, I will just make it work.
I'm feeling good. It's like a super nice place. I'm a little bit disappointed about the weather, but it's part of the game, and we are a bit on altitude, so at this time of the year it's always like that. So I'm super happy. It's like a super nice place, it's super nice memories, and I'm ready to rock it. Yeah, World Championships is always special because everyone just think they can have a win here, so it's always something really special. But I'm a little bit comfortable with my shape, a little bit comfortable with my recent win, and I think there will not have many changes before the classic season. I will say classic season. Like the last races just give me the confidence. I miss a bit at the beginning of the year. So of course I'm expecting a really hard battle, and I just expecting for everyone will be in a good shape and everyone could play at 100%.
Our defending world champions there, Arthur Serrière of France and 𝐭𝐸𝐵𝐿 of France. At the moment, XTERRA is in very much a French lockout. Serrière and 𝐵𝐿 both going for a 3-peat today, 3 wins in a row since 2022. Can they do it? It's been very much this course and this location in Molveno in the Dolomites that suited them, but also not just the course, consistency and form across the whole season that builds towards this point. You're looking at live pictures now, looking out across Lago di Molveno in Trentino in the Brenta Dolomites, and the sky, I'm pleased to say, has cleared. It's not overly warm though, about 8 degrees as you can see, humidity of 90% after all the rain we've had the last few days, but things do seem to have settled, which is delightful to see. I can tell you some early news right at the beginning of the day. The swim will be shortened, so the map you're about to see is going to be showing the full, what would have been 1,500 metres with the Australian exit in the middle. Instead, there will be no Australian exit, and where that exit was in the middle of that M shape, they'll be coming out a 750-metre swim due to temperatures today. We'll come back to that in just a moment. This is the bike leg as it works its way up in the direction of Andalo, where the opening ceremony was this week. It then hits the really gnarly bike park trails coming back down, having gone around that lake there. The bottom edge of the picture there's a beautiful man-made lake, and then we have these zigzags coming right the way down, a technical section through the town as well on the asphalt dropping through Moveno itself. The final run, very smooth and fast on the way out, but then they turn into this wooded section here and it starts to get very XTERRA, dare I say it. Properly gnarly, up and down, lumpy, rooty, rocky, steep, slippery slopes, back along the beach and in. It's a 2-lap final run though, so they'll have to do that technical section through the forest twice. Ah, the calm of the still waters of Lago di Moveno. They are waiting for the entry of our elite men who will be starting pretty imminently. My name's 𝐤𝐤𝐶. I'm your lead commentator, as I have been all the way through this XTERRA elite season. I'm pleased to say I have with me a former XTERRA professional, former European cross triathlon champion as well, Nicole Waters. Hey Nicole.
Hi Jez, thanks for the introduction. It's great to be out here in Moveno. What a beautiful setting for the World Championships today.
Ah, it absolutely is. It's been beautiful all week and I'm just so delighted to see that the rain has eased. Although the water levels have swelled, there's been an actual rising of the lake level, such as the amount of rain we've had in the catchment area of the mountains around here.
Yeah, it's a little bit stiller today though. It's not quite so choppy out there for the athletes, although it is cold. The air temperature feels quite chilly, so we've obviously got that shortened swim today, which will play into the favour of some of the athletes, perhaps not so much for some of the others. But it's what we've got to play with today.
We're looking through the men's elite start list because the elite men start first today, the elite women starting fairly shortly afterwards. So during our live coverage today, Nicole and I will be overlapping, picking up the elite men and the elite women too for this World Championship. I'm sure lots of you will have been with us for our live coverage of the short track race back on Thursday. This is the start list for our elite women, by the way, headed up, and if you're wondering about the start list, it's done in World Cup order. We do have a few athletes who haven't been competing in the World Cup who have entered this World Championship late on. Amongst them, two interesting names as well. Raquel Klammer of the Netherlands and Richard Murray. Those two are actually a couple. Richard Murray, four-time Olympian, formerly competing for South Africa, now competing for the Netherlands. And those two will definitely be two athletes to watch, Nicole. I picked them out because they haven't featured in our rundown of the World Cup season so far, but there will be two athletes to definitely watch in this opening swim. And we saw that on Thursday, didn't we?
We will, yeah. We saw Rachel come out of the swim fairly well, first in the short track race, so that's potentially going to change the elite women's race a little bit. We'll perhaps see some of the stronger swimmers with an even bigger gap coming out of the water, so that, yeah, it'll leave a bit of chasing for the other athletes to do when they're out onto the bike.
Nicole, you've been there on a start line just like this. What will be going through the minds of the athletes when they hear that it's been shortened to a half-distance swim, 750 metres? I guess it'll be different for different people, right?
It will, yeah. Obviously, the stronger swimmers there will be a little bit disappointed. I think there was a few discussions amongst some of the stronger swimmers that they really wanted to push the pace on the swim. I don't think that will change. They'll still want to go out there really hard to get as big a gap as they can going onto the bike. Perhaps for some of the other athletes that aren't usually up the front in the swim, they'll be looking forward to this shorter swim. So athletes perhaps like 𝐤𝐸𝐿, we saw him do really well in the duathlon format. He's usually a little bit behind out the swim, but today he's going to be that little bit closer.
Yeah, absolutely. They're lining up in their World Cup order, or they should be, I think. The gold swim cap being worn by Félix Forissier as leader of the World Cup. Actually, do you know what, Nicole, at the moment, they're not lining up in number order. They appear to be standing wherever they like. So I think we'll ignore that. Whoever's rolled out our lovely XTERRA mat there might be a little bit disappointed, but they don't appear to be standing on their actual number. But we won't worry about that. Two swim caps there for Arthur Serrière, choosing to keep his brain warm. I wonder what tactics he's cooking up in that brain. He is going for the three-peat. I think it's brilliant, Nicole, that both of our returning champions here are going for that three-peat. Both of them going for those three World Championships in a row, something that for the men in Arthur Serrière has never been done before. Despite the multiple winners we've had in the World Cup, nobody's ever won three in a row. Even the great Konrad Stoltz didn't do it, Eneko Lanos didn't do it. Who else have we had that's won multiple editions in amongst the men? Well, those two really. Ruben Rizafa didn't do it either. They've all won three, but not in a row.
No, I mean, it really is quite the achievement if he can manage to do the 3 in a row. So with XTERRA racing, anything can happen within that race. So to be able to do that 3 years consecutively it's really quite impressive. So we'll see what he's got for us today.
28 years of history that take us all the way back down to 1996 when Jimmy Riccitello won this event in Hawaii on Maui Island. Bring us to this point in Europe, in Italy, in the Dolomites, and this is the start of the World Championship. The full field of men in. Quite a few gloved hands in there, I think, by the looks of it as well, or at least keeping themselves warm before the start. They're off, Nicole, and we would expect, I guess, to see the strong swimmers right up there amongst them. Michele Bonacina maybe will fancy being out first. He wasn't first out, though, in the short track, was he? On that occasion.
I'm not sure if he's started today, actually. He's been struggling a little bit with illness, so we might not be seeing Michele Bonacina today.
That's interesting. Well, he's been traditionally first out a fair bit this season in the World Cup already. First out on Thursday, though, was the German Jens Roth, so we'll see how he does. It was much shorter, of course, even than this for the short track, 400 metres only on Thursday. This is that little bit longer, but they are going out to that first turn buoy, coming back on themselves, and where they would have been exiting for the Australian exit and run through, they're going to be exiting for good and going straight into transition. Splitting either side of the rock there as they go in. No great drama in the swim, although a fairly big pack to be filing themselves down, I guess, and the waters, as you said, Nicole, are definitely not as choppy as they were for the short track on Thursday.
No, I mean, that is quite a big swim pack at the start, isn't it? All the athletes fighting for a little bit of clear water so that they can get into their swim stroke and almost warm up a little bit as well. It is chilly stood on that start line, so they'll be keen to get started so that they can warm up a little bit as well.
Yep. Well, we haven't got numbers on these swim caps. They're all wearing blue swim caps, these elite men, but I recognise, I'm not entirely sure that isn't Felix Faricio we're looking at there, side-on shot. As they start to spread out a little bit more, we'll get a good idea of where they are, and of course, as they exit from the water, we'll be able to tell you what the gaps are as well. This has to be, Nicole, for the elite men, it has to be the Dane, Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen's best chance of winning a World Championship, because how much time will he now have made up by not having to do... I mean, let's not get it right, but get it wrong. It's very easy for me to pretend that he's a terrible swimmer. He's not. He's a brilliant swimmer. It's just that he's not as good as the guys he's going to need to try and beat, Arthur Serrière and Felix Faricio, is he? How much time is he?
We can do a little bit of guesswork with the timings. He was about 40 seconds down out of the swim over 400 metres in the short track, so he's potentially a couple of minutes closer to the start, to the front of the race when he exits the swim than he usually is, so that's a lot less chasing that he's got to do on the bike. So we're potentially going to see quite a big pack in the men's race fairly early on as they go onto this bike course.
Yeah, and that is important, because I think this is a bike course that suits the strong bikers really well. It's a really hard, long climb up there into the mountains. Some of you might have been following my videos I've been making this week on my social media at @𝐤𝐴𝐸, where you can see preview videos of the course. I've been out running around it, and I tell you what, Nicole, it's one of the hardest runs I've had, just running to the top of that bike course. Of course, on the bike it's going to be a little bit more mechanical advantage, but it's going to be really hard. It will certainly suit definitely the stronger bikers. We know that, and we know that from the last 2 years too, but this slightly shortened swim will definitely play in the favour of the likes of, in the men's race, Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen. And in here, it's a little bit more even amongst the top of these elite women. The elite women are off. This is their World Championship underway now, and that opportunity for Solène Billouin to get her third victory and match the record of Julie Dibbons, the British athlete, of course, who also won 3 in a row. Can she do it? She's looked so good all week. She's Solène Billouin staying in my hotel, by the way, Nicole, and I watched her last night meticulously choosing things that she wanted to go and have for her dinner, and she prepared all her own food in her room. So she didn't eat in the hotel, she prepared everything in her own room, and she's cut an extremely focused and understandably quite isolated character this week, just keeping herself to herself, doing what she needs to do to be ready for these World Championships.
Yeah, we heard from her after the short track, didn't we? And she's definitely got a plan of what she wants to do today. She really wants that win. So everything in this race week is going to be meticulously planned. She knows exactly what she's doing every minute of every day. She's got all of that in place, and so there's everything that she can control leading into this race is going to put her in that best position to take that win.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I can report from our tent here, where Nicole and I are talking to you from, just alongside Lake Morveno. The sun has come out, so you might not be seeing that from the pictures of the swimmers here on the lake, but it is lovely here today now. And it's been, as I say, an up and down week weather-wise. It seems to now be improving for today, and this is ideal because you're going to get some fantastic drone shots, as you're seeing right now, not least of these athletes as they make their way up into the mountains, up onto the Paganella bike park as well. There's a ski lift that takes cyclists up to the top of the bike park. It really is, and I'm not paid to say this, I'm just going to say it, it kind of speaks for itself. It is such a destination here, isn't it, Nicole, for endurance sports people, but also just people who love the outdoors.
It is. There's so many tracks and trails in the mountains for biking and running and just enjoying the outside, that it's a really beautiful place just to even come on holiday. But no, big pack of women here that we're seeing now on this swim course. We can see that gold hat of Solène Bilwan in there. She'll be looking to exit the swim as close to the front as possible. And just two separate peaks at the front of this race here, taking slightly different routes to this front swim buoy. Up the front, we're expecting to see Rachel Klammer. She'll probably be leading out the swim today. This is strongest discipline across in the XTERRA racing. We saw her lead out the swim in the short track before finishing 7th. Also expecting to see Annette Grabmuller up the front. She's wanting a strong swim today so that she can have as much of a gap going into that bike as possible. She's a really strong biker, so she'll be wanting to stay up the front for as long as she can. But 750-metre swim today for our elite athletes. Chilly water temperature, so it's just that little bit shorter. And this is back to the men's race. Gold cap of Félix Farizier in there. I don't think it'll be too long now before we start to see the men starting to come out of the water.
Right. Gosh, it's a melee of arms hammering up and down out there, and I guess the strongest swimmers, Nico, as well, know that they really do need to make the most of it. So if anything, they may have gone out even harder to try and get that little bit of a gap. We've also got separation by the looks of it between two swimmers off to the right there. Without having swim cap numbers, it's a little bit tricky for us to pick out facial features as they bob up and down. We'll get that really clear indication of what those gaps are and what kind of pack might form as they come out of the water. And Nicole, I think you and I, both having been around this bike course a fair bit, it's certainly the opening sort of 6 or 7 kilometres on that long climb. I would say it's worth being in a pack on the bike because there's some pretty good drafting opportunities, not least in that first couple of kilometres where they make their way around the very edge of the inlet, the Lago di Bior, the top northern edge of the main lake. There's quite a distinct drafting advantage, I've thought, if you're in a pack early on.
There is. The first part of the bike course is a fairly wide track with a gradual incline, so it's going to really benefit the athletes to be in a group there, to perhaps work together to get that distance from the athletes behind them. Before they then start the steeper part of the climb where it gets a little bit more technical, where there's perhaps not so much of a benefit to being in a group. You're going to want to be at the front of that going into the technical section so that you've got a clear line. You're not then held up by anyone making any little mistakes ahead of you.
Yeah, we will also hope for no mistakes in transition as well as they head their way out. Won't be quite as hectic in transition. It won't be anywhere near as hectic in transition as it was in the short track race. I keep referencing the short track race. If you haven't watched it, by the way, just go back on our YouTube channel and you can see the coverage of it. It's only about 30 minutes of racing, isn't it? The whole thing, 30 to 35 minutes, something like that, for the elite men and the elite women in their races. And transition in the short track is absolutely crazy. It will be a little bit calmer today, but every second counts, of course.
Yeah, the athletes, again today, they won't want to be wasting any time in transition. It's still important. Okay, it's not as important as it was in the short track, but they don't want to be forgetting anything. They don't want to be wasting any extra time. And I think what's going to be interesting in transition today is to see if any of the athletes are putting any extra layers on going out onto the bike. So it's been chilly this morning, so 10 degrees at the start. Yes, the sun's coming out, but we expect the temperature will still be quite cold as they start to head up the mountain. So we might see some extra layers going on in transition just to make sure that they stay warm whilst they're out on the bike.
Yeah, I think it's worth us pointing out that we can now see, by the way, this shot is showing our leading elite men coming back in, and by the looks of it, our leading elite women also, obviously, as we've seen them start out on the water too, going the opposite direction. It's carefully planned, isn't it, Nicole? So they don't just plough into each other. Now we have two of our men, one in particular who's gone a little bit hard right or hard left as they're going, coming back towards the pontoon. Lovely shot, now glistening with the sunshine that's coming down the valley here, right the way across Lake Moveno, and looking up into the Italian Dolomites, looking up in the direction of Andalo, where they're going to be riding on this bike leg. And it is a very fast bike out. I have to say, I know we've done this, this is the third year doing this, and the bike course is the same as it was last year, Nicole, but the opening section of the bike course, as we'll see, I suspect with our drone shot as well, is quite tight and narrow round the edge of the lake before they then cross the road and go straight up onto the mountain bike trails the other side to start heading up the mountain. And if there is a pack forming at that point, they will need to be a little bit careful, I think, because we've got some quite tight turns around the edge of the lake before they head off. You'll see, we're about to see that once they come out of transition. Great big crowd down on the beach, as there has been all this week. Lovely to see so many people supporting the event. Tomorrow we have the inaugural Youth and Junior World Championships here at XTERRA. We've saved the very best of the youngsters till last, and a lot of them are on that beach right now, watching their heroes, being inspired by watching an elite World Championship in front of them. That's so important, Nicole, isn't it?
It is. It's great that they've got the opportunity to come out here, not only to see the elite racing, but to actually take part in the race themselves. And that's Jens Roth just leading out the swim here for as he did yesterday.
Yep, and he looked absolutely delighted with that too, Jens Roth. Actually, just quite nice to see, isn't it? He knows he's now got the fastest swim split in a World Championship, and just almost celebrating that moment. Right, there goes for a C in the gold cap.
Really great swim from Felix there. He's right up the front.
Yeah. Now, Jens Roth delighted with that. The massively experienced German athlete dominating that swim, but not with as big a gap as we suspect he would have had at the end of 2 laps of that 1500 metres. So the 750 metre swim done. Gilles Dumas is right up there. He had a brilliant short track this week, and he's come to this race not having raced much of the World Cup this year, Gilles Dumas, the Frenchman, but he is going to be up there today. He'll be somewhere in that top 10, I suspect. He biked really well in the short track. Now watch the athletes here. They need to make sure.
And Sullivan Midal there, all within the same sort of time, so they're all going to be heading out at exactly the same time here.
So one pack, Dumas at the back of it, and Felix Farissier just on the back. Arthur Serrier not quite getting on the back. Max Chanet there in the blue as well, running out with his bike, calmly as well. Right, where is Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen? It's so often. And there is Sullivan Midar making his way out. Was that Sullivan Midar or Porter Midar? It's a bit tricky when they both have Midar on their kit, isn't it? We'll check it from the number. Here are the splits as they're going out. So, coming in from the swim, Jens Roth, Nolan Keller, Federico Spinazzi, the Italian, right up there in that leading group too. But that group will have a bit of shuffling on this bike course. But this is definitely a bike leg where actually if you've had a good swim, you can certainly hang on going out onto that climb. And the climb itself, it's long. We've got effectively about 5 kilometres of pretty tough climbing on the fire road going up to the top of the forest. Let's see though. So Roth's still out first, but he knows that actually quite a lot of his advantage from that swim has been eaten up. Those of you who watch the short track race will recognise this part because we're heading out on the northern banks of Lake Moveno in the direction of where that short track bike course was. Parts of the short track course you can still see marked out just above Jens Roth here. So a German leading the World Championship, heading out onto the bike, but even there he's looking around and over his shoulder, Nicole, because he knows the chase is on now.
Yeah, it's good to see in that drone shot, isn't it? We can see the distance between the athletes, and that chase pack is coming.
Yeah, notably you can see extra layers having been put on in there as well. Whether they were worn underneath the wetsuit or not, we won't know, but I think 1 or 2 of the athletes pulling on a warm layer. It's worth us pointing out that decision about shortening the swim is not just based on water temperature, it's water temperature and air temperature, because look at them now, they're taking the wetsuit off, but they're soaking wet and they're out into pretty cold conditions too. There's a nice pack forming as well. That's the bit, the narrow bit I was talking about, that takes them along the edge of the Lago di Bio. It becomes the Lago di Bio underneath that bridge there. And they go down to a lovely picnicking spot in the far northern corner of the lake there, right in the shadow of those trees too. So as I say, the opening couple of kilometres flat, very fast and ideal for pack formation. Once they cross the road and start to climb up through the forest, it gets an awful lot tougher. Fantastic live drone shots looking across the bluey green waters of Lake Morveno. And I'm so glad we're seeing it like this, Nicole. It was so bad, the weather during the short track, wasn't it? We weren't even able to get the drone up in the air, and now we're seeing the true beauty of this Dolomite heartland.
Yeah, so it won't be long now before we start to see some of the first women coming out of the swim. So we'll watch out for who's going to be leading that pack.
Yep, well, I can give you a few more names who are in the leading pack going out amongst the men. Richard Murray was there, the 4-time Olympian. He was 4th in Rio, and he was 44th in Paris, racing for the Netherlands. Of course, when he was racing, and he was 4th in Rio, he was racing for South Africa. He's now racing on a Dutch racing licence, and he was 44th in Paris. He was out, funny enough, all the 4s. I've done the 4, the 44. He was out 4th. There we go. It's almost like this has worked out perfectly. So he's in that leading group, along with Jules Dumas, as we saw, the Frenchman, Félix Farissier, Arthur Serrier, Max Chanet. So 4 French athletes in that leading group. Although Chanet was just chasing back on, knowing how good his bike leg is. I think he'll be fine. So we're watching now our elite women as they are closing in on exiting. And here we go. Anita Grabmuller, by the looks of it, looking to exit. No, she's not exited first, because once again, Rachel Klammer
out first. Then Anita Grabmuller. I think we're probably going to see Emma de Croo out in third position as well.
So Rachel Klammer, one of those athletes who's been given a wildcard start to these World Championships. She's not competed in the World Cup this year, and she showed actually that her bike leg, her mountain bike leg, is pretty consistent on the short track, and this course should suit somebody like her quite well. Certainly better than the short track did, where it was a lot of twisty technical turns. On the way out, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rachel Klammer here actually defend this lead fairly well on that long climb, Nicole.
Yeah, it's a tough climb that they've got to start with. So it's not too technical, the first part of it. They're up a fairly sort of straightforward gravel track, where I guess your bike power is going to make a difference to how fast you go up that. And she's got Aneta Grabmuller for company, so between them, hopefully that's just quite a strong pair. They can maintain their lead for a little bit before the chasing pack joins them. But we've just seen Solène come out now, so she is not too far behind.
It will be interesting to see how the gaps go between Aneta Grabmuller there in the black tri-suit. Right, these are the next athletes now coming in. Anna Zender there, the Swiss athlete. Sandra Meyerhofer, the big home favourite for Italy, in the orange swim cap nearest us. And a slip for Loane de Voisin as well, trying to get her wetsuit off there, Nicole.
Yeah, so that's all of our sort of race favourites for the ladies' race. I think they're in transition at the moment. So probably having a few problems with some cold fingers and toes, sort of getting helmets and shoes and things on.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just seen Emma de Croo going out, and she is wearing just the tri-suit, but the swimsuit tri-suit, not with the long shorts either. So she's going to take some warming up, and it won't be long. It won't be long before they're into their stride, because that long climb on the bike is hard. You'll certainly warm up on there. There's no doubt about that. We're watching that moment again here with Loane de Voisin banging down as she tries to get that wetsuit off. Not easy. Behind her, Solène Billouin, the defending world champion in the white tri-suit with the black shorts, just running in behind de Voisin there, probably seeing that as it happened too. None of these athletes, they all get on pretty well. They won't want any misfortune to happen to anyone. However, she might have seen that, and I do think, I don't know what you think, Nicole, but I think Billouin's biggest threat today probably is, dearie me, sorry, who have we just seen fall over?
Loane de Voisin.
Yeah, thank you, Loane de
Yes.
Voisin, because of the way she's come back to the sport at the end of this year and shown just how strong she is.
She has. She came back with a dominant performance in Czechia, where she won the European Championships. So she's definitely going to be some big competition there for Solène, and they've come out the swim very close together, and we've seen them left transition within a few seconds of each other. So it's all of these women that are usually spread out a little bit more after the full 1500 metre swim are actually all fairly close together. So this first part of the bike is going to be really interesting. Do they stay together as that pack and work together, or are there going to be some fun and games on this climb where they're trying to sort of drop each other and get some distance?
Well, once we're around the edge of the lake and heading up the trail, we should be able to pick up our lead bikers' pictures as well. Just in front of our leading bikers, we have e-bikes out on course, you'll be pleased to know, so they won't have to be pedalling, despite the fact that the riders on them are quite capable. Our outriders just ahead of the leading athletes will have a camera on to pick up the pictures of them. They're riding up in this direction. Let's go back though and just recap that swim and the entry to it as well. I loved the fact that Jens Ross celebrated as he came out as well. I think that might be a clear indication that might be that he knows that's going to be his best leg. This was our elite men starting, that big pack. 30 athletes starting. And this was Solène Bilwan in her gold swim cap in a slightly smaller women's field. I have to say, Nicole, I'm just glad we did get to have a swim, because of course, if it's another couple of degrees colder, and I'm not going to sort of second guess exactly how that calculation works, it's done by the officials from FI Tri, the Italian Tri Federation, who are providing the officials here. They're sticking to the rules. They have to do a calculation between water temperature and air temperature, so I'm just glad we did have a decent length swim, even though it was halved.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's trained for a triathlon, haven't they? They want to be able to do a swim, and it's easier for, I guess, even the organisers that they have a swim as well. So it's in everyone's favour that they do get in the water and compete in a triathlon for the World Championships.
Here we go. This is our leading men, and they've just come onto the trail. So they've gone around the edge of the lake, they've crossed the road at the far northern edge of Lake Malveno, and they're now onto the long trail. These riders, these athletes here, will all know this climb well. They've all practiced it. But I have to say, Nicole, I think, having run up this trail, which has got to be the hardest way to do it, earlier this week, you could get it wrong here and overcook it. We've got 𝐸'S here, who I think is absolutely flying this week, the Frenchman. He's leading the pack. Do you know what? Here's a little suggestion for you. We talk about tactics and what have you. What chance that Dumas might be doing a little bit of work for his French colleagues in there? Because we have got, I know they're all individual athletes, they're racing for themselves, but we've got three incredibly strong Frenchmen, and just behind the big, tall, powerful figure of 𝐸'S is Arthur Serrier, and I think Félix Farissier, if I'm not mistaken. Any teamwork going on in there? Is there a chance of that ever, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, there might have been a few discussions between the athletes sort of before the start of the race, and sort of wanting to help out their fellow countrymen. But yeah, I mean, all the athletes are going to be working pretty hard right now. I don't think Arthur's going to make a move just yet. He's just going to sit in and take this, follow the pace of Dumas for a little bit. And I think we can probably expect him to make a move probably a bit later on up the climb, perhaps on this lap. Maybe he might buy his time until lap 2. Because let's not forget, they've got to go up this climb for a second time as well. 2
laps of 15 kilometres, giving us 30k on the bike. If any of you are watching, by the way, and you're not used to watching XTERRA, welcome to our coverage of this World Championship, if it is your first time watching. And I'm delighted, I know it will be, because throughout our live streams this year, our audience has been growing and growing and growing. So welcome to our fantastic sport. 30 kilometres to some of you, particularly if you're used to watching or thinking about things like Ironman, you might think, well, that's 30k? Really? It's an incredibly hard 30k, isn't it, Nicole? And it's going to take a lot longer as well, because it's a really technical one too. So
we've just seen Felix make his way to the front as well. He wasn't happy with the pace and has almost just tried to push it on a little bit more, just thinning out this pack a little bit.
So Félix Farissier, World Cup leader and almost certainly World Cup winner now, on the front. Where is the red skin suit of Arthur Serrier, our defending champion? I haven't seen it. I'm just looking to see.
I think he's sitting about third wheel, I think, at the moment.
Yeah. So Félix Farissier leading, and it is very much a pack here. They're all right on the wheel, making the most of the slipstream, as I thought they would be. If you're not on the back of this pack, Nicole, I think you could lose significant time before you start the descent, because it's definitely a climb which is well worth being in the lead. I know. I think it's Doug Hall who's on the bike at the moment, the lead bike. He'll be doing his best to stay ahead of them. He's on an e-bike, I should say. But these riders might not be getting much draft from the e-bike in front of them. They will, though, be able to take a bit of pace off it. So I think the advantage of being in that leading group is definitely helpful. And you can see the gap already opening up between this pack and the next rider. The next riders were right there, but I think it's a distinct advantage being in this leading group. We're looking for the red skin suit. Yes, there is. Arthur Serrier is right there. So the two big players at the top of the World Cup standings, Felix Farissier and Arthur Serrier, in this leading group, and they are riding first and second, with Farissier in the lead, Serrier there, and there is Midar.
As
yeah,
well.
Sullivan Midar, the winner of the short track race, is right there too.
So I think Sullivan, Midar and Felix Farissier, both the two big threats to Arthur Serrier's. They were potentially the athletes that might prevent him from taking his third World Championships today, and they're both there up the front.
And we're in amongst the athletes here. I think we're just following, if I'm not mistaken, Jens Roth as well. Jens Roth now off the back of that pack, but benefiting from his customary strong swim as well. We're about 3/4 of the way up the climb now. Boy, they've ripped up there, Nicole, as well, because I recognise this section from going and checking out the course in the week. It has a little bit of up and down in it too, so there is a bit of rest in here before it continues to climb again. They climb up to a little woodcutter's cottage right at the top of the course before they start bits of descending. However, I have to say, this is a course where when you ride it, or if you're stupid enough you run it like I did, you do find yourself thinking, hang on a minute, there seems to be far more climbing on this course than there is descending. I know mathematically that can't be correct, but there is so much climbing on it.
There is, and the part of the climb that we've just seen there is probably the easy part of the climb. It doesn't get any easier from there. It only gets tougher, so it starts to get quite steep. There's a few technical sections in there, and then they've got quite a tough slippy climb to get all the way up to that lake at the top before they just start the descent back down again.
Now, the reason we're looking at pictures of Lake Morveno is, of course, because the climb up to the top is thick, forested, mountainous terrain in the Dolomites, and at some point, of course, we will lose the signal of our following bikes there using the 4G hookup through the telephone network. That's how we do it. That's how it's done in live broadcasts at this level. And it does mean we will then be picking up our elite women as they head up the climb as well too. We do thankfully have trackers on every single one of them. They all have a live GPS tracker on their bike, so we'll be able to pick that up on the map to see exactly where they are. There's the edge of the lake they've already ridden around before they head up onto the climb, and they're climbing up in the direction in which we are looking. The drop back down from the beautiful man-made lake at the very top, Nicole, is particularly exciting to look at. It picks up bits of the bike park, although I'm pleased to say, and this is kind of very much in the spirit of XTERRA, this bike course doesn't have tons of built bike park elements in it. It has some lovely switchback turns and a few jumps and whoopie bits as well, which are man-made. But other than that, in true XTERRA fashion, it is very natural, this course, isn't it?
It is, and we've had a lot of rain over the last few days as well, so it'll still be slippy out on the course. So there's a lot of technical skill involved in not only getting down the trail, but getting down the trail quickly and efficiently, and also making sure that your bike doesn't fall apart in the process.
Right, by the looks of it, Annette Grabmuller is now in the lead. These are our leading women, and Rachel Klammer hanging on to Annette Grabmuller. And actually, that might be something maybe a year ago we wouldn't have said. When we see you know, a world-class road triathlete come in at this point, you might be thinking that Rachel Klammer would be riding away from Annette Grabmuller, but Grabmuller's bike leg has come on so much that she's now overlapped with Klammer and is taking the lead. Right, this is the second group on the road, being led by Luan de Voisin, I think, by the looks of it. Sandra Meyerhofer in the middle, and they have picked up one of our elite men as well. That will happen throughout this race as well, because there's a few of the elite men that are further down the field, and the elite women picking them up. This is Solène Bilwan, though, by herself, in 4th or 5th there, I think, by the looks of it.
Yeah, so I think Sandra Meyerhoff will have a really good day today. She's incredibly strong on the bike. We've seen her win mountain bike marathon events this year, quite big events. So this course is really going to suit her, and she's probably one of my favourites for today. I think she's also going to challenge Solène. But yeah, if Sandra can have a good bike, there's no reason why she can't also take the win today.
Nicole, will you join me in a little game of giving our predictions then?
Oh,
We're
okay.
talking favourites. Do you want then? So should we go with elite men first? Do you want to give me... Tell you what, will you even go as far as giving me your top 3? There's no chance either of us will be right.
Does this have to be in
perfectly,
order, or
I
just
reckon
top
in order.
three?
Well,
In order.
everyone at home will be saying, yeah, definitely in order. Go on, you go first.
I'm going to do in no particular order because I think it's still too early to call. But obviously, Arthur Serrières, you know, he's won the last two. It'd be brilliant for him to win his third one. I think everyone's kind of rooting for him a little bit to get his third win. See, Félix Frusier and Sullivan Midal, they both had brilliant races, and actually we can see them all on all three of them on our screens now, pushing the pace at the front. And I don't think any of these athletes is going to let anyone get any gap on this bike. I think they're just going to bury themselves to stay with the pace, whatever the pace is. Yeah,
let's come back to those predictions in a moment, because this is the climb up to the road crossing, if I'm not mistaken. They cross the main road to Andalo fairly imminently, and then it continues to climb. Oh, sorry, that is just after the road crossing. You can see the road in the background in actual fact. So they just crossed the road to come across it.
And this is really steep, this section, isn't it? It's straight up.
Now this looks like Federico Spinazzi, who's had yet again another fine swim, number 8, climbing up towards us. But Félix Frusier, Sullivan Midal, Arthur Serrières and Jules Dumas, just the athletes in the lead. Now, this doesn't look great for Max Chani. I thought he'd be a little bit higher up at this point, but he does have a customarily strong bike leg. Here he is coming towards us right now. Just behind him, Porter Midal, the youngest of the two Midal brothers. Don't forget their dad is also in here, 𝐕𝐨 Midal, who was the world champion in 2015. Here comes Richard Murray, racing for the Netherlands.
And Jens Emil there as well.
Well spotted, Nicole. So this is the athlete we will expect to see him working his way through this field. That's actually Spinazzi going past us there, I think. And here he is, Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen, the only Danish athlete in this elite field. The man who started the day ranked 2nd in the World Cup standings. He's already been a World Cup winner in Namur, where the bike course, where the swim was eradicated and we had a duathlon effectively, but I'm not sure he needs that to win, because this bike course is right in the game park of Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen, and we will look to see him work his way through. This is Jens Roth, our fastest swimmer, now starting to lose time on this tough mountain bike leg as well, with the number 26 on his helmet, looking down through the field. And there is a former world champion as well, 𝐕𝐨 Midal, with the number 11 on his cap. He's the dad of his 2 sons, who are just ahead of him. And I love the fact that in interviews pre-race as well, I heard, I'm not going to quote him directly, but effectively 𝐕𝐨 Midal said, I'm not giving them help and advice and guidance. I'm here to beat. Basically, he's here to race against his 2 sons, and he's doing well. The 2015 world champion. He's just gone through shot, but both of his lads, unfortunately for him, are ahead. We're looking further down the field here as well. It won't be too long, of course, before we see our leading bikers. And the last time we saw them, it was the Czech athlete Aneta Grabmüller in the black tri-suit who was leading for the women, but the chase was on. Solène Bilwan just calmly working her way through. She never seems to be an athlete who panics either, Nicole. And we will look to see how far up this field she has moved. That's Marta Mendito, if I'm not mistaken, making her way up the climb too.
No, Solène will have a strategy for today. She's won here twice before. She knows what she's doing. She'll have that race plan. She'll know what pace she can ride up this climb, and perhaps if that pace at the front has been set a little bit quick, she's not going to panic about it. She's got confidence that her plan is going to get her the result that she wants today.
Yeah, this is the mid part of the climb up to the top. And it won't be too long before we see our elite men going around the edge of the very newly formed man-made lake at the very top of the course, and then diving into the bike park switchbacks and whoopie jumps in the forest as well. They will look particularly spectacular. We won't see all of it because I'll tell you what, we've got 14 different cameras out there on course here today, so you are seeing an awful lot of things, but you won't see absolutely everything because it's so difficult to catch it all in the forest. Looking back down through the women's field now as they come past us at that same point. I'm excited, I have to say, Nicole, to see how far Aneta Grabmüller can hang on to the lead, maybe all the way today. I mean, we know that her weakest discipline now still appears to be the run, but she's an incredibly gutsy athlete, and she's a definite podium contender, I'd say, today, because her mountain biking has come on so much.
She has, although there was quite a strong chase from Sandra and Luan there, and we know both those athletes are both good friends. They're going to be working together and trying to close that gap as quickly as they can.
A fantastic shot now of, well, unless someone's flown the nest, is this the leading three? This is Sullivan Midar, Arthur Serrier and Felix Farissier. So I'm presuming this is our leading three because they are the leading three who sprinted to the line at the end of the short track race. So our camera biker here tracking what appears to be the leading three. I don't think anyone's overlapped with them, Nicole. And it's still Farissier. Interestingly enough, it's Farissier who seems to want to lead.
Yeah, he's quite happy setting the pace at the front here, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know necessarily. Well, I mean, from a tactical perspective, maybe I'm certain he'll want to lead into the descents first. That would make complete sense. But there are some flatter sections in here where actually sitting on the wheel and drafting will be an advantage. Midar sitting in at the back. Serrier has been tucked onto the back wheel of Farissier all the time. This is notable because just watching body language and positioning so far, it seems to me that Serrier and Farissier are thinking about each other and Midar's just sitting on. Now, are we going to look back at this and go, well, all this time that he's been sitting there quietly and the two older guys were worried about each other, the youngster, the 22-year-old, who's already done it once this week, just sitting in and waiting to take advantage. That bit there, by the way, is really slippy. This is where it starts to get technical. We've just gone past the little woodcutter's cottage at the top of the course, and now we're away from the fire roads, we're away from the paved sections, and it is now pure, tough mountain biking country, and this is where you can make some mistakes. You know this section. I ran this in the week, Nicole, and they've made extremely light work of that, but it's very, very slippery.
It is, and this is perhaps why Felix is wanting to be in the front. He's not wanting to sit behind and then potentially have to then stop if there's the athlete in front of him makes a mistake. And to be honest, these climbs are so steep. There's not really much to be gained from drafting. I mean, you might like to follow the pace of the athlete in front of you, but I think for me in these sections, I'd want to be in front, choosing my own line, and not be sort of upset by anybody else and where they're going.
Yeah, our e-biker here doing a very good job of picking their way through, and I take my hat off to JD and Doug Hall, who are out there on the bikes at the front of the course picking up the pictures as well, because even though they're on an e-bike, just working your way through here is tough. This is quite a tough chute they're about to go down too. If any of you saw my preview videos from the week, oh, we've just missed it, which is probably sensible, because that is a really steep chute they're just about to go down, really rutted and rooty. I very nearly fell running down in the week. It will actually be slightly easier riding it, but we're now picking up. I think they've just gone down it, and as soon as they've gone down that chute, they start the next rocky climb. Look at the conditions here, and this shot is useful, but I tell you what, Nicole, it doesn't give you much of an indication just how hard it is to get
you
grip.
can see Sullivan Midar's rear wheel just sliding a little bit there. There's really not much traction for the athletes as they're going up this steep climb.
Now this might be what we might be seeing in action there as we see the front of our women's field now. Loen de Voisin has Loen de Voisin has ridden her way through to take the lead. Sandra Meyerhofer hanging on to her, and Etta Grabmuller on the right hand side of the shot there in the black, who was out second from the swim. They've now overlapped with Rachel Klammer. Rachel Klammer with the Red Bull helmet on now further down. She is in fourth and will try and hang on to them into this first technical section. I think Grabmuller will cope with the technical stuff really well, but at the moment it's advantage to Voisin and Meyerhofer who are leading this race, Nicole.
I mean, Sandra is technically so good, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her put time into the other athletes on the descent as well. But I did expect that Luan and Sandra would probably work together here, and they're going to be quite a big threat to Solène if they're pushing the pace together on the bike.
Well, Sandra Meyerhofer, already a winner in the World Cup this year. Here comes our World Cup leader and defending world champion. So she's not in that leading group. Still no sign of panic, though. She'll just keep this steady climb going. She is working hard, though. This is definitely does not give an indication how steep this is. The rise from the road there is tough. And she's just about to get into that slippy section with the shiny mud and roots as well. This is Solène Bilwan, two-time world champion, going for her three-peat today, just as we lose the picture high up there in the Dolomites as well. We've got a good chance in this race, looking at this right now, Nicole, of an Italian winner, an Italian world champion on home turf, which would be the first time.
Yeah, it'd be really, really great for Sandra if she was able to get the win today. She was second here in 2022, and don't think she raced last year. I think she was struggled with an injury still last year. So it's great to see her back and at the top of her game, and say she's been doing phenomenally well through mountain bike racing this season. Obviously, she had that win out in Belgium, so she'll be feeling good for today's race.
Now, this looks like 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐵𝐴. Now, we've not really seen Patthier so far on this bike course. She is distanced a little bit in 6th. So she is chasing Buona. 1st and 2nd in the World Cup standings are 5th and 6th at the moment in this race. So, gosh, we have a race here, and I'm going to say it, where the French are on the back foot at the moment on the first lap of these bike legs. And it's a long way to go, Nicole, but this is a sport at the moment, XTERRA, which is dominated by the French. And yet there we have a Swiss woman, an Italian, a Czech, a Dutch woman, and then the three French women just afterwards. So are we seeing maybe a little bit of a swinging of the balance in this World Championship?
Yeah, I mean, 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐴 is another athlete who is incredibly good on the descents. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her take a good chunk of time from the athletes ahead, sort of on when she starts descending back down into Movino again.
Yeah, as we can see them starting to enter the more technical rough terrain in the forest, riding away from Andalo. So that's the most northerly point of the course as they ride up into the Dolomites proper, away from lake level. And they're up to just over 1,000 metres, as you can see there, alongside the Sella di Andalo, just touching close to, by the top of the course, 1,100 metres above sea level. Looking here at Marta Mendito, who's the next of those athletes to go through, the Italian in 8th place there, ahead of Romy Spulder. She's chasing Emma de Croo, the Dutch woman, who, as I say, probably coming out of that swim was wearing a full, swimsuit, effectively, tri-swimsuit. So she would have warmed up by now, but that would have been a chilly start to that bike leg for her.
It will, yeah. I mean, I don't think it'll take long to warm up on this climb, though. The camera really doesn't do justice quite how steep. It's a tarmac climb, but it really does go straight up.
That is Romy Spulder, sporting the stripes of Dutch champion on the edge of her tri-suit. That's one of our elite men. These elite women have caught as well, if I'm not mistaken, because the next athlete we should be seeing is a little bit of a surprise to see her that far down. Anna Zender, down in, outside the top 10 at the moment, the Swiss woman, and looking to chase back in. We're back with our leading men again, though. We're following Sullivan Midar here, and you can see how muddy it's been. After all the rain we've had this week, it's really slippy in there. There are going to be some issues, I think. I have to say, I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but there's going to be riders at least going offline at some of these sections as well, because it's incredibly technical in there. If anyone has got their tyre choice or pressure choice wrong today, Nicole, it's going to cause problems, I think.
Yeah, and it's hard to get that pressure right as well, isn't it? With the course changing, the conditions changing all the time. And we know it's going to be wet and slippy, but if it carried on raining and potentially got more slippy, then you're going around that second lap perhaps with your tyres not as you'd want them. But I mean, part of that, the preparation starts way before the race. You know, you're making sure your bike's ready, that there's no mechanical issues before you start. You've proven in the course, you've given it your best guess at what the condition's going to be like on race day, and then all you can do is, I guess, hope for the best and be prepared. Take your spares with you as well. It's always worth carrying something that you can fix a puncture with, or a little inner tube, or some of the little stabbers that you stick in your tyre. Yeah, being self-sufficient, absolutely critical part of this. This is Sullivan Midar, distanced from Arthur Serrier and Felix Farissier, but I think that's Farissier and Serrier right there. They must know, I'm presuming, Nicole, from the short track and just from their experience of the very few occasions they've raced Sullivan Midar, his run is so good. They need to put as much time into him as they possibly can in here and together. So in a way, despite the fact these two are battling for the World Championship today, Farissier and Serrier, they're almost in comradeship at the moment, aren't they? Trying to put as much time as possible into Midar. Yeah, I think Felix looks like he's very much riding his own race at the moment. He's got his pace that he's happy and comfortable riding at, and he's just right. He's going to stick at that all day, I think.
Well, we come back down to lake level again, the glistening lake of Lago di Milveno, and our camera motorbiker here hooking back up again, still on the climb, still constantly climbing up, and this goes up into very narrow single track, right up into the forest. They then go left and drop down into a gully. Arthur Serrier looking round to see who's catching them. Thankfully he'll see it's our camera biker and not Sullivan Midar getting a second wind on this climb, but Midar is not far behind. They do a left up here and drop down into a really tough rocky gully. And the gully is just to their left, so they keep climbing up through these trees, then turn left across a little ridge and straight down into that gully, which is fast, and that's really where they start a little bit more descending, because at the moment they're still continuing to add elevation to this first, let me remind you, first of 2 bike legs.
And this section of the course in previous years has been really, really slippy, so it's good to see that it doesn't look in too bad a condition at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a real change of terrain as well. The tree type is different up here as well. There's a lot more of the fir trees in amongst it, and the ferns as well, and we can see it underfoot. It's basically, as we've climbed higher, the fauna around the riders, and therefore the soil type as well, has changed. It's much muddier. There's the indication of where they are. They're getting closer now to the little lake at the very top of the course. Once they come around that, it gets very much more bike parky, and we start the descent back down into Moveno again. You can see Essere and Forissier in the lead, Midar just behind them, not far off though. Question is Sullivan Midar going to get some company from the likes of Max Chanet behind? We're not yet fully aware of the gap back to Chanet and others, and my suspicion is that could well happen, knowing how strong those chasing bikers are behind. And let's not forget Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen. How far up has he moved? We'll see when they get to the top of the course, I guess, Nicole.
Yeah, I think Sullivan Midar might have Jens Emil for company in not too long.
Well, that should be a very useful pairing, particularly if it happens on the descent, because he'll be able to follow the lines of Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen, who is, I think, the best mountain biker in this men's elite field. And actually, Midar would do well to try and track him on that descent and follow his lines. That's if he can handle it, because Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen is one of those riders who's quite happy to throw the bike around a little bit and chop things, pre-jump stuff and that sort of thing. And if Midar is up for it, he'll be on a very good wheel there. And those two will be quite closely matched on the run as well. So that could be an interesting hook-up to see if it happens. They might well take Max Chanet with them, because he's another of those very strong technical bikers in this field. And I make that distinction because it is an important distinction to make on this course as they enter now the gully. This is the start of that gully descent. A problem for Arthur Serrière there, and that's really a problem with just slipping a little bit at the very top. Had to put a foot down, Nicole, by the looks of it. The first time we've seen separation between these two.
Yeah, I mean that's not much of a gap, is it? Arthur will be back up on Felix's wheel before too long.
Well, he has to make the effort to do so, though, and every one of these little efforts counts across the whole of this World Championship today. I don't think Forissier is at all aware that Serrière wasn't there. You're absolutely right, though. Serrière just stamps on the pedals, gets out of the saddle and lifts it back up onto the back wheel of Felix Forissier. Such a shame, Nicole, I think, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that we haven't got both Forissier brothers here in this World Championship. We started the season seeing a win, of course, for Arthur Forissier, and last season we'd got so used to seeing both Forissier brothers racing together. Arthur Serrière there taking an inside line. I don't actually know if it was any quicker, but he's taken the inside line there to go up onto the course.
Yeah, there'll be a few different options that the athletes can take when they're climbing and descending. They'll have both been around the course, both practiced different lines, and that's just what the route that Arthur's decided was what he was going to take. I imagine there won't be as many athletes taking the line that Arthur took, so it might perhaps have a little bit more grip, certainly as more athletes go over the course and just churn it up a little bit. But that's Jens Emil now, just past Sullivan Midar.
So he's up into third, but they're quite a long way back. I know that part of the climb they're on there. He is working his way through Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen, so he's gone past Midar, and there was me suggesting Midar might do well to try and follow Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen. I would suspect, because Sloth Nielsen knows how good his bike leg is, he might well have put in a bit of a burst as he went past Midar there, because he definitely doesn't want to be dragging the young American round with him, because Midar, as we've seen, is one of the fastest runners in this field, definitely. So Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen absolutely flying, eating into the ground of our two leaders, but still quite a long way behind them.
I think we might see Jens make the catch before the end of this first lap, though. He's very, very efficient going down this descent, and it's a long descent back down into Moveno. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him up the front of the race by the time they come round from this first lap. And I think Jens probably knows as well that he'd quite like a bit of a gap going into the run, so he's not going to want to waste any time trying to put that into place.
Right, our two leaders here on the final concrete climb that takes them up to the beautiful lake at the very top of our course. Once again, Felix Forissier now looking round. And I wonder whether he's trying to get 𝐼𝐸 to do a bit of work, because I'm going to say it again, Nicole, I think it's important. These are the parts of the course, at the pace they're moving at now, there is a distinct advantage of being on the wheel where 𝐼𝐸 is. I know this is a steeper bit, but he's had a lot of draft from Félix Farissier today. And yeah, if I was Farissier, I'd be trying to force 𝐸 to come through a little bit on some of these sections. I don't know if he's trying to. He seems to be saying something, but maybe 𝐸, as the defending champion, is saying, no, you want to take this title from me, you're going to have to take it from me from the front. I'm not going to be helping you. Why would I do that? Here's the lake at the top. They're out now onto the edge. You can see the sun appearing. It's an absolutely beautiful spot. We exit the forest and go around this beautiful bluey green lake at the top. It's even darker emerald green. Look at the colours of it. I knew this was going to make a fantastic drone shot, and that's why our drone is up there. They do a little anti-clockwise loop around it and drop straight into some switchbacks, some berms and little whoopie jumps. This is what we're about to enter is the bike course part of, the bike part course from the Paginella bike track here above Molveno, and we're just about to go into it with our 2 leaders. Beautiful up there, Nicole, isn't it?
It looks like such a nice day, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, long may it continue as well. It has turned rather nice down here in the valley, around that built berm as well. They go across this little rickety bridge and then straight into the downhill. This is where we might see any gaps open up in the technical ability between these two athletes, but they seem, well, they have seemed all season long and last year to be pretty closely matched. Already we might be in our elite men being treated as some kind of sprint finish. We've got a long way to go just yet. We're looking for 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen. Where is he? There he is.
Coming around now.
Nicole, it's going to be close.
It's not huge, the gap, is it?
It's No, we will get a split on it as well in just a moment, but definitely the fastest biker on course right now, this guy, the Dane, 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, also about to head into technical terrain. He'll be a good one to follow on that downhill too, because as I say, he loves to scrub a bit, he loves a bit of technical terrain, and he'll be relishing this next bit. Here we go, 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen into the boardwalk berm, being followed by our camera biker. Good luck following him around here, because he is going to be absolutely ripping.
Yeah, unfortunately those e-bikes don't give you much on the downhills, do they?
No. Right, let's have a look who we've got chasing in here too still. Here's Sullivan Midar. Right, and now this is the part of the course where, now Midar is a very good mountain biker, but he might be a little bit off the pace of the guys at the front. Let's see. Straight around the berm. And what will be interesting to see is going through and past the loop back to start the second lap, what the gaps are between them and the leading 3, Midar in particular. I'm expecting him to lose a little bit of time on this technical section, but let's see. Looking back now through the field, you should be seeing that's Jules Dumas, the Frenchman. Jules Dumas looking back across the lake to look for, I think he might be looking for Max Chanet. He's looking around as well. This is our leading women, Loane Duvoisin, continuing to go up to the very top of the course as well.
And Solenne's caught them.
Wow, she's there. Yeah, you're right. World champion,
yeah, so
defending world champion.
She's stuck to her plan and stuck to her pace, and it's paid off. She's joined these leading ladies of Loane and Sandra.
Yeah, don't forget they're catching some of the elite men in here as well, so ignore the gentlemen you can see at the moment. They're in amongst them. This is Solène Bilwan picking up drink from our aid station. Sandra Meyerhofer, the Italian, big home favourite of course, in 3rd at the moment. So hard this climb. You can see it on the face of all of those athletes there, can't you, Nicole? It's not an easy climb by any means, as you'd expect in a World Championship. So Solène Bilwan in 2nd place, but Loane Duvoisin with the bit between her teeth at the moment, and I think looking, if anything, the most comfortable of those leading 3 as well, despite the fact that she's leading. Loane Duvoisin, who turned up, of course, for the full distance race in Czechia, having not raced XTERRA at World Cup level this year. And a few questions about how she would transition back from being on the road where she's been racing throughout this season. Well, she answered those questions right there by taking the win ahead of Aneta Grabmuller and 𝐸𝐸 Patier in Czechia in the full distance race as well, not just turning up for the short track but taking the full distance win as well to become the European champion Oh, right into the descent here as well. Following Sullivan Midar down, he's enjoying it too, to get a bit of air, the youngster.
This is such a fun descent. The athletes will really be enjoying themselves now. I know they're in a competition against each other, but it's hard not to enjoy yourself on a bike in a place like this, isn't it?
And it's not. I mean, particularly if you go to some of the bike parks that are in the United Kingdom, where we have really manicured, smooth trails. It's not like that at all. It is still rocky. Yes, they're built trails, but it's very rocky around you. You're never really going across sort of very smooth terrain, are you?
No, and then it gets a little bit more natural sort of as they get down to the bottom half of the trail as well, which again these athletes will really enjoy. It's a good fun section of trail.
This is not a live shot. We're watching a replay of 𝐂𝐸 looking across the lake though, just before he goes in, because now our lead bikers are down into the technical trails. The last part of this bike leg on this lap 1 of the bike lap goes through the town, through Malveno, and it's completely different to all of this. It's got a real urban downhill feel to it, hasn't it? With some bits of boardwalk and quite tight stuff in between the houses, Nicole.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything on this bike course, which is what makes it so great. It's definitely a course that's worthy of a World Championships. It's challenging. It's tough. It's in a beautiful setting.
This is Federico Spinazzi, the Italian. The Italians now so lucky to have a World Championship on home turf 3 years in a row. We're coming back to Malveno next year for the 4th time. And I'll remind people as well, going all the way back to the history of this race, when we had the first ever XTERRA World Championship in 1996, right the way up until 2021, it was held in Hawaii. And the sport has really globalised since then, not just in terms of where it goes. We now have a World Cup series for the second year in a row, I should say. But we also have a much wider spread of races across the Asia Tour, the Americas Tour, the Europe Tour as well, and then this fantastic kind of all-encompassing World Championship, which has found its new home in the Italian Dolomites, in the Brenta Dolomites in Malveno. It won't be here forever, but it seems, much as the old course in Hawaii was particularly testing, it was set in the backdrop of the Hawaii Ironman as being the backdrop to it. That's effectively how apparently the XTERRA first started, was some of the road triathletes watching the mountain bikers washing their bikes down on the edge of the water, on the edge of Maui, and then deciding, well, hang on, why don't we also chuck in a mountain bike leg as well and see how it goes. That's how things started way back in 1996, and Michelle Jones and Jimmy Riccitello, of course, legends of the road side of our sport, were the winners there. So much change has happened since then in our very, very young sport of XTERRA, and we're watching part of that globalisation. A Dane on a charge, Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen ripping down this course and looking to see if he can get himself up into the lead as well. We keep cutting down to shots of the lake. These are live pictures of our age group athletes who are heading out onto their World Championship. Don't forget, later on this afternoon, we're going to be showing you live pictures of the finish line for those age group races. And we're watching Sullivan Midar now coming down. So it won't be too long before they enter Malveno itself and start the urban section of this bike course, and then loop around the edge of Lake Malveno and head out onto the climb again to start their ascent back up to the top. Nicole Walters is just leaving me for a little moment. And she's going to be, I think by the looks of it, taking Zoe the Golden for a little walk. Zoe the Golden Golden Retriever has been a feature of our socials already this week. Though I'm going to be joined by Steve Andrews, who's the America's Tour manager, in just a moment. We're going to talk all things XTERRA, and he's going to enjoy the second lap of this bike leg. We've just watched Felix Farissier, who is now in the lead, Felix Farissier, and he's looking back to see... He's looking back to see where, here he is, Arthur Serrier, our defending champion. Now, Serrier has lost some time on the way down there, somewhere in amongst the urban part of the descent here. Arthur Serrier has lost time to Felix Farissier. Farissier taking advantage of it, but you could see him looking around to see where Arthur Serrier was. So, Farissier possibly not even aware of where Arthur Serrier has gone there. It's not a massive gap, but crucially there is a gap before we turn away from the lake again and restart the run. He comes along the edge of our TV compound here. In actual fact, Felix Farissier has just ridden past exactly where I'm sat talking to you right now on the edge of the mini golf, right on the edge of the mini golf course here. And we're following on our drone shot here alongside the tennis courts, the 50-metre swimming pool. Look at that fantastic pump track. 2 pump tracks here, no doubt, all year round as part of the bike park and everything that you can come and do here in Moveno. It's a stunning location to bring the family, if anything else, not just for elite sport. And we're very close to starting lap 2. 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐬𝐿 Sloth-Nielsen getting some high front end air there, coming down, riding a part here of what was our short track race, of course, from Thursday. And the chase is definitely on. Félix Farissier, I don't think, is aware at the moment of what's happened to Arthur Serrier. He's looking round as well. He looks, dare I say it, possibly a little bit confused. Right, this gives me a chance to bring in Steve Andrews. Steve is very well known to all of you, particularly those of you watching in the States, because he's the America's Tour manager. Steve, it's nice to be sat alongside you.
It's nice to be sat alongside you as well. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome, my friend. Welcome to our commentary tent. You've just been out in the sun. The sun outside.
The sun is right. You know, it is out. The Dolomites peaks have shined, and it's absolutely gorgeous morning here in Moveno.
Complete contrast to the short track race on Thursday, of course, where we got a little bit wet, didn't we? Well, I didn't, sat in here. But
I was very
wet.
wet. Yeah, we were sopped head to toes, but it was an amazing event and race that weekend, or that day.
So we have Félix Farissier in the lead, and interestingly enough, Steve, looking round to see where Arthur Serrier is, and I don't know what's happened. It could just be natural daylight through pressure, because Farissier has wanted to lead all the way through this bike. He's not been calling Arthur Serrier to come through. If he has, we haven't seen much of it, and now we have him in the lead. Are we going to, here's my question for you, Steve.
Yes.
Are we going to get a new world champion today in this race or the elite women's race?
You know what? It's a tough. I would dare say it's hard to answer that question, but as according to these roads, what we're seeing in front of us right now, that might be the case. But this is only the first half of the bike race. We have one more coming.
Yes, we do. We've just seen there Sullivan Middle, our short track winner, looking like he was struggling a bit. I hope he's not got a puncture, because his bike looked a little bit rear end laboured. I might be wrong. At the moment, we have 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐬𝐿 Sloth-Nielsen coming through in third and on a charge. Now, before Nicole left, Steve, she seemed fairly certain that this man, 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐬𝐿 Sloth-Nielsen, will be leading by the end of this bike leg and going out onto that run. We will see, of course. It's a 2-lap final run, 10 kilometres. 2 5k laps to finish off, but we have one more of these bike legs to go. But definitely the Dane, 𝐸𝐴𝐺𝐬𝐿 Sloth-Nielsen, is on the charge. He's 1 minute and 17 seconds down on a flying Félix Farissier.
I would say that we will know that question or your answer here just at the top of the hill. We'll see them once they get up, who has the strength to climb that hill, and then that descent. We'll see where that's at.
Well, Matt Chanet's just gone through. He's in 4th place. Wouldn't you know it? He is Mr. 4th, and he deserves better than that. He's 4th in the World Cup standings. He was 4th in the short track. He's been 4th in a number of rounds this year, and he's still in 4th place now. I really love Matt Chanet. He's a great athlete, a fantastic mountain biker too. But Steve, I hate to say it, I want him today to either be 3rd or 5th or anywhere else, just not 4th.
No 4th. Let's cheer him on for 3rd. There's no reason he can't be in the top contender today.
Listen, I wouldn't wish bad performances on anyone, but I'd rather he's 5th than 4th, because he's always 4th. And 4th is arguably one of the worst places to finish, because he's so close to the podium, and Matt Chanet knows it. He said it coming into this race. He doesn't want to be one of those regular top fivers. He wants to be a winner. So let's see if he can do it. Right.
Looking at Sully's tire, didn't look like it had too much low pressure.
No, I think he just hit a bit of a compression on the course and was just getting speed back up again. But Steve, I saw you at the finish in the short track. Understandably, you manage everything that happens XTERRA wise in the Americas.
Correct.
You looked really happy with his performance. A youngster coming through, a new fresh face of the sport from the States as well.
Well, reality, I've known the Middaws for almost 18 years, and I've seen Sully Porter, they're even their little sister from when they were kids. Both know, and I know Josiah, his wife Ingrid, an amazing family. So it's good to see the tradition live on within their kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I can't think, we were scratching our heads the other day, Steve, to try and think of another occasion where we've seen an elite race at the very highest level of the sport, where you've got a father and both sons all competing at elite level. And Josiah will be up there in this race as well. He's not just making up the numbers, he's there with good reason, because he's still one of the best elites in the world.
Oh, absolutely. He's a very strong athlete. And, you know, and he's a humble guy. Deserve his credit. He is still an elite athlete, and amazingly so.
Yep, I thought it was fascinating as well. In interviews after that as well, he was asked, wasn't he, about, it might have been you that asked him, I think, what kind of tips have you been giving your sons? It must be great for them to be able to pick your brain. And his attitude was, no, I'm here to try and beat them.
That's it. It's a competitive family. They're on the starting line. They're ready to race.
Yeah.
And how amazing would it be to see all of them, not necessarily podium, but within the top 10, top 15, all of their family. It would be amazing.
Oh,
not to mention little brother Porter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right, we're watching the top 10 at the moment as it stands in the elite men's race, just working its way out as they head back out onto their second of these 2 bike legs. I'll give you the top 10 as it was as they came through. Do you know what? Actually my chip timing is not. I need to refresh that. Felix Frissier leading from Arthur Serrier. Jens Emil Sloth Nielsen chasing in third, but he is, let's call it a minute down. Now, judging by how much he's made up, Steve, on that first leg, I think Nicole's prediction that he could be at least in the lead with Felix Frissier by the end of it could well come true. The question is, does he pick up Arthur Serrier en route, and does Arthur Serrier hang on to him? Let's see, I guess.
It's a great question. And, knowing Jens Emil Sloth, he is definitely hungry. He's wanting to, step it up. And so those 3 will put on a good show here shortly, if not already.
Well, our drone shot is picking up what I think is the front of our women. I'm looking down on that. I'm just trying to... we might be looking at Loan de Voisin and possibly Solène Billouin. I can see a white tri-suit in there. Are we? Yes, we are.
Yeah,
Look at this. World champion, and arguably her toughest competition today, now hooked up. What a race we've got at the front of the women's race.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Look at this go. That's what amazing.
Loan de Voisin is going to hang on to the back wheel, make a bit of the draft of Solène Billouin at this point, but this is already after one of our 2 bike legs. They're right at the very top of the course, about to go into those swoopy sections and boardwalk berms. We have really the 2 big favourites for this race. You've got Solène Billouin, who's dominated the World Cup all season, and then Loan de Voisin, who's come in late on this year, but already proven by winning in Prachatica that she is a massive contender for these World Championships. She's got to be, at this moment, Steve, the biggest threat to Solène Billouin getting that 3 in a row.
If she stays on her wheel throughout this race and lets Solène lead, there's definitely an opportunity there to overtake the race and the lead. So it's going to be down to the next wire. This is going to be a very exciting race today.
Well, Solène Billouin has used the long climb to eat up any of the time that she lost in that swim. She's not the fastest of the swimmers in this field, and that's been shown throughout the year, but between the bike and the run, she really doesn't have any weaknesses from now on at all. She's a good technical bike handler as well. She showed it by winning the short track this week. You don't win every short track race all season as she's done without being an extremely competent mountain biker.
Very much so true.
Steve, you've got you've got a really wide insight into all the different XTERRA courses, not just World Cup, but all the wider XTERRA races too. What is it about this place, specifically here in Moveno and the Dolomites, that makes this such a worthy World Championship?
First and foremost, it's the surrounding, the community, the village, the atmosphere around the lake, the community, but then the trails, the access to the wonderful world-class trails, both for mountain biking and trail. It's what we're looking for World Championship races and venues.
Yeah, certainly the feel around the place, and that's grown, I guess, over the last 3 years. I mean, this is my first time being here. This is the third World Championship we've had here, Steve. It's definitely, my sense is that not just the athletes returning to it, the elite athletes, the age groupers, their families and support crew and what have you. This year, for the first time, we've got the first ever Youth and Junior World Championships happening tomorrow. There are so many youngsters here just taking all this in, not just the race and the elite, but taking in the environment and the mountains and everything.
It's the experience. I mean, what a wonderful opportunity for them to have a showcased venue for them. Super excited for this Youth Championship. It's going to be an exciting venture tomorrow, and we're going to be showing them as well live.
Daylight, Steve. There is daylight.
Look at that go. My goodness.
Solène Billouin has opened it.
Oh, that little climb. Yeah, well, the one is coming down fast. We'll see.
Yep, and there's a chance for them to regroup when they get back into town as well. They're already catching and they're working their way through the back markers of the elite men too, such as the level at the very highest end of our elite women too. That's Teller, they've just caught there as well. Sam Teller.
Sam Teller, yes, from the US as well, might I add.
only small gaps between the start of the men's and the women's race, so certainly that's not going to say that Sam Teller's going badly. It's just the front of our elite women are hooking up with the back of the elite men. They are that good, Steve.
Yes.
You're right. So Sandra Meyerhofer going through there in third, but now quite a way off the back of Duvoisin. This is watching the descent back through town. The final part of this bike course, Steve, is so completely different to anything else. It's really fast as they rip down the road through here. And the riders who are quite happy to take a risk through those corners, it is really quick.
It is tight. They're going through this village, and there is no room for mistake on that.
No, what a fantastic drone shot looking down. You're looking down live on Morveno.
This is what makes this venue so spectacular.
Steve, I'm so glad we've got the good weather today now. Because
You and I both. Oh my gosh.
Not just for all of our crew and everyone out there, but for people watching, the thousands of people watching all around the world, spread wide, watching this race. You're really getting to see the beauty of Morveno as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Get to enjoy the experience. That's what this is about, is that experience. Be able to feel the emotion, the feeling of these competitive athletes.
Right, we're back onto the climb again, and Arthur Serrier is back in contact. So whatever happened at the end of that bike leg, I don't know, but Arthur Serrier is back on to Felix Farissier. This is exactly as it was at the start of the first bike leg, except there was a pack there of 6 or 7 athletes. Now there's just the 2. The World Cup leader, Felix Farissier, here in the French champion skin suit at the front, and then Arthur Serrier, the defending champion. Farissier has never won a world championship. This will be one of his best opportunities to take it off Arthur Serrier. I don't know what you think, Steve, but I've just got this feeling I could see these two being involved in a 2-up sprint finish, just like we had in Praketica.
It will, yes, and also it's going to be like what they just did on Thursday with the short track. It's going to be a sprint to the finish. Yeah. Both amazing young men athletes, and it's good to see them, the drive, the hunger to be able to push this, and how they elevate XTERRA in general.
Well, we've seen them now open up that gap. I did wonder today, Steve. I was looking forward to you being extremely excited alongside me. I know you will be anyway.
Oh, heck yeah, I'm excited. Absolutely.
I know you.
I'm in the tent with you. How can I not be?
We all pretend to be impartial, but trust me, if there was a British athlete up there right now in that top 5, I'd be getting very excited.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited here just for Sullivan. It's like, all right, I see him on the screen. There he is. There's the map.
Yeah.
He's located there, 4th position.
This is our GPS trackers giving you an indication of them on the climb. Serrier and Farissier up there. Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen on the chase, though. The Dane is coming. He's coming, isn't he?
And he's strong. He's definitely contender in there.
Yeah, well, particularly in amongst the run as well. We so often see him chasing into the run, and I would say, really, here he is. Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen is, sorry, that's not him at all. We're looking at Solène Bilwan completing her run. They race in a similar skin suit.
She's coming in for a second lap, yes.
Yep, so Solène Bilwan on the short track course, as we used for Thursday, around that rocky bit at the high point of the course. She'll drop down the chute and straight through along the edge of transition. We'll get a split timing on her, but
a better visual of her, yes.
We've just seen her work her dropper post there, so she's taking the opportunity to push down on the saddle, drop the saddle out of the way, and she's pressed the button. You've just seen it pop back up again. It's the first time we've actually seen that today. Most of these athletes using dropper posts.
Yes, it's incredible. You know, the technology they have from years ago when we started biking.
Yeah,
totally changed.
Absolutely. If we go back to Jimmy Ricciatello and Michelle Jones, they were effectively on, well, they would have been on hardtail bikes, probably aluminium.
Yeah, absolutely, and probably a hard fork as well.
Yes, it may well have been in 1996. And for those of you maybe who don't know the history, we've got a fascinating collection of athletes that have won it over the years, including crossovers from other sports.
Yes.
I mean, Ned Overend is the one that stands out to me as the most fascinating, as a former world champion elite mountain biker who then, and still is, showed just how good he was at running as well, taking the win on 2 occasions, 1998 and 1999 in the elite men. Right, looking down though on our defending champion, Solène Bilwan. At the moment, our 2 defending champions both leading their races and both going, Steve, for those 3 peats. For the women, it's happened before. The last time it happened was Julie Dibbons, of course, the British athlete.
You got the British, yes, you do, yes.
Oh yes, but no, but the fascinating thing is it's never happened before for the men.
No,
we've had loads of 3-time winners, but never in a row.
Never in a row. So this, if Arthur Serrier is able to do that today, amazing.
Yep, he would be the first. So, Solène Bilwan in the white tri-suit, white with the kind of purpley flecks to it as well. Looking calm and in control, Steve, at the moment, doesn't she?
Absolutely. She's approaching the village, where all the spectators there to cheer her on. Imagine how it would be to have that audience there cheering her on. Hopefully that creates sense of energy for these athletes.
Yes, absolutely. Who have we got on the mic over there, Steve, at the moment? You know, doing the live announcing, because they're whipping up the crowd nicely.
Oh, that is Chun. He does an amazing job. That's what he does. Everybody knows Chun, the voice of XTERRA, absolutely engages the crowd and, you know, creates the excitement around this event.
Yeah, it's a fantastic race village here on the banks of Lake Morveno. It's a wonderful setting for it, and I'm glad it's out in the sun now. Loandu Voisan now with Sandra Meyerhofer. Those two have formed a useful pairing there. They've been together since actually the top of the first part of the climb as well, when Loandu Voisan started to go through. Now, maybe they can work a bit together, Steve.
You know, I hope so. Maybe they will draft and then be able to put some pressure on, you know, Selene.
Right, this is Anita Grabmuller, who, as I thought she would, has survived that first bike leg really well. Her weakest discipline is that run. We know it will be today. I'm pretty certain of that. She's been getting quicker and quicker on the run throughout, but her mountain bike leg has really improved to go with her always very impressive swim as well. The Czech athlete in fourth by the looks of it at the moment, but we watch Solène Bielwan taking a drink. She goes through the aid station there as well and heads out for another 15 kilometres, that very long climb all the way up in the direction of Andalo, and then the technical descent too. Things at the moment looking very good for our defending champion.
Yeah, she's in strong. She's got, you know, like we said, she has one more lap to go.
It's not, though, Steve, a massive gap, is it?
No, it's
30
not.
seconds back to
30
those
seconds, anything can happen. They've got a full mountain to climb with the mud and everything else.
So 𝐿𝐸 Patier is in fourth, but she's a full minute further back. The second placed athlete now in those World Cup standings, having overtaken Marta Mendito. Tiny gaps between the athletes in second, third and fourth as well. So in amongst the women's race, there's definitely some shuffling available today in this final round of the World Cup. Anita Grabmuller by herself, so she won't be benefiting from having the draft of other athletes around her. But it does mean, Steve, I guess the other advantage Grabmuller has here by herself is that she will always be leading into the technical sections. When you're in a pair, you often end up racing each other to be the first one into that technical section.
She has control of that. So specifically with the mud, with the rock garden area, absolutely, she has her own destination that she gets to challenge.
Yeah, we're still using the wooden flyovers as well as part of this course. So every one of them, another layering on of kind of high tension pressure on the muscles. This is the very end of Lago di Bio, which is the kind of dammed, slightly dammed section at the top northwestern edge.
Look what we have here.
Morveno. Yep. Farissier and Serrier starting the climb away from the road. And this is, do you know what, this shot doesn't give it any indication of just how steep it is. I ran this bit during the week, Steve, as I was running around this bike course. I'm crazy enough to do that, and it's really tough.
I was surprised. I didn't run it, but I went hiking on it. It was absolutely incredible. Can't imagine having to race this twice.
Absolutely, that's the thing. Forget the distance. 30 kilometres to some of you watching might not seem too much, but it will. Time-wise out there, it's a long time on this climb, and it's a course which is, if I've ever done a bike lap, Steve, like this, where it just, for whatever reason, I know you're climbing longer than you are descending, but there just seems to be so much more elevation than there is downhill, and mathematically that can't be possible.
No, it's not, but it's somehow it feels that way here.
Right, let's see. Oh, Farissier easing a little bit. And for the first time there, I think Serrier looking to come through and take the lead. And that could be deliberate, I guess, Steve.
It could be. You know, we don't know what their challenges or their strategies are, but that seemed to be the case.
Solène Bielwan just looks so good. Nice light cadence. She's up to speed around the edge of the lake. It won't be long before she takes that left-hand turn, goes up this ramp here. Here we go. She's getting close to crossing the road and starting the climb proper too. It's climbing already here, but it's very sort of hard-packed, very fine gravel. I dare I say it right now, you could be ripping along here on a gravel bike, you'd have no problem with it. It's just the technical descent that's coming is...
not managed well.
No. Right, so this is the Dane in third. Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen on that same climb. Is that a minute? I don't think so. Maybe slightly less than a minute, we'll see. We'll get the gap in just a short while, but Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen. The problem is, Steve, we watched him all this season doing this, chasing back through.
Yes.
yes, we know he can do it. Yes, we won't be too surprised if we see him at the front of the race by the end of this bike leg. But it does still take something out of you for that final run, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, you're trying to play catch up. You're going to be then pushing yourself. Where are you at coming into the transition? Where, you know, how are you going to make that gap up within the run? And it's not an easy course. It's very technical, like the bike course.
This is Max Chanet, still in 4th, which I don't want him to finish in.
And I'm looking, where is Sullivan? Where is Sullivan?
Yeah.
Where is...
Of course, so 3 Frenchmen in the top 4, just split by that one Dane again, Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen. So much the thorn in the side of these French dominant athletes, because without him there, we'd have a French top 3 right now. And,
yes.
Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen, he's in a way, he's
look
kind
what we
of
have
the...
here. It's neck and neck.
Yeah, they're alongside each other. I did wonder, well, it looked to me, the last time we saw them, Steve, that Félix Farissier was a bit over-geared, like he was just labouring, but I sort of wondered whether he might be trying to force Serrier to do a bit more. Serrier took the lead there. I think we've just seen him take a gel as well, and there we have it. Félix Farissier back in the lead again. Interesting.
Back and forth, yeah, nutrition definitely was taking a gel, so we'll see.
Yeah. This is the defending champion and the would-be champion. Félix Farissier has to win a world title, minimum of one, at some point in his career, because he's so good. And so, I know, Steve, I know it's not necessarily a certain. He might go through his whole career and not win a world title at XTERRA.
Yes.
But when you're leading the World Cup and you've been as dominant as he's been this year, both of these athletes have, but as consistent as Felix has been all year, it would be a great shame if he didn't get his world title at some point.
At some point, yes, indeed. What I appreciate about these athletes, they're actually very humble and gracious towards each other. To see the smile and congratulations of an amazing race the other day. Totally great. Oh, look, we have the age group start of the World Championship.
Fantastic. And Steve, you'll have seen a big build-up to this as well. These athletes have competed and qualified to be here at their age group World Championship across events spread right round the world, across all the different continental
Absolutely, yes. They have earned their right to be here to race for that title of national champ or world championship.
And which of the rounds have contributed to that from the Americas tour?
Oh my goodness, we've had them from countries. Let's just recognize the countries: Canada, USA, Puerto Rico, Mexico. We've had Costa Rica, we've had Chile, and then we've had Brazil and Colombia. It's been a great series to see grow within the Americas as we develop both North and South America.
Talking of Americans,
there
Sullivan.
he is, Sullivan.
Wait, calm down.
Oh my goodness. Here I am cheering him on. I got to calm down. Yes, I do, but here he is.
He just knocked the whole table over in here.
Jeez, sorry about that, guys. A little excited.
Right.
He was dubbed today the Golden Eagle. So as you see, you'll see he's flapping his wings. So.
Yeah. Well, I've been out in the mountains this week looking for Golden Eagles, Steve. I'm out on my mountain running, and all I could find was a kestrel, a little falcon all by itself.
Yes, I've not seen anything. But it has been raining, and we might see that today.
True. You're right. So Sullivan Midart still now settling into the pace of this climb. This is after the road crossing where our camera bikers are picking him up. And we're back with our leaders again now. Félix Farissier has sat back, and Arthur Serrier now. Serrier now still in second place with Farissier. Thank you, Steve. And we're into that really muddy, rooty bit. You can see Serrier just slipping the back wheel. It is so slippery in there, and by the second lap as well, it won't be so. It will be more shiny now that so many bikes have gone across it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be like ice in a way. It'll be slick, hard to get traction, but they'll be getting it.
Every different kind of surface in this race, from the smooth, fast tarmac of the descent back down through Molveno, right the way through these rocky, rutted, muddy routes. This chute here, I hope we see it this time, because this thing is nasty. I ran down this in the week, and I tell you what, this is, I think, the toughest descent of the whole thing. And our e-biker here, I'm not sure who this is riding this one at the moment. They've done well. They've done very well, because that is
it's Michelle out of the Czech Republic, one of our organizers
she's doing brilliantly.
He's a good guy.
That's right. We're back to seeing Spinazzi now, picking up the Italian athletes on the climb as well. Yes, that was a really tough descent, that one. It's only short, but it's into a tight left-hander as well, so you've got to cut the speed. But if you cut the speed too fast, you will, of course, slide by locking up that back wheel. It is a full test of every different kind of biking ability, this course, Steve, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Every part of it. Here we are again, following our leading two. I just can't see any.
Oh, look, number 5. Oh, my goodness, look at that. Josiah, his father, is in 6th place.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, they're both together.
Yes, hopefully that'll push the father-son component to really drive him more into the race.
Well, do they work together?
I don't think so. I knowing those guys, I think that they're going to be pushed to see who is the top mid-A.
This is Sam Teller coming through right now, and then we're seeing Richard Murray, the Dutchman, former South African, raced at those Paris Olympic Games this summer. Steve, that crossover we've seen in this race, the likes of Richard Murray and Rachel Klammer coming in for these World Championships. It is great, isn't it, that we still see this kind of porous crossover between the road side of our sport and the off-road side.
Absolutely. You know, and what it comes down to, it's multi-sport and endurance, races. Bringing these athletes together, having them come in, letting them have that crossover only really solidifies what we're trying to do within the multi-sport world. And there's no reason why we can't have crossover, and we encourage that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got plenty of athletes doing exactly that. One of them, of course, is 𝐿ohan de Voisin, who's been racing on the road for most of this season and has chosen the second part of the year to focus on the dirty side, or should I say the dirty side?
The dirty side, yes, I like that. Good job.
Thank you.
Good
job. It's the first time you've got a good job in there.
Attaboy.
Help. Oh dear, it's good to have you here with me, Steve.
Oh
it's
my
nice
God,
to get that.
Absolutely, I agree. What a fun. Look at this, she's doing well.
She is, and she is kind of tucking down a little bit, getting aerodynamic. She will have that kind of pace of our leading bike for a short time. Don't worry though at home, it doesn't go on for long, because our leading camera bike here will drop out and pick up the next of those athletes. We expect the next of those athletes to be 𝐿ohan de Voisin, but how far back will she be by the time the top of this climb?
Is that the one?
I'm not sure, Steve. I think that could be one of the gents.
Yeah, it could
possibly,
be. I would not be
𝐿ohan.
surprised.
Well, if she exits the...
there we go.
There you go, we're seeing it. So 𝐿ohan in the lead, Meyerhofer and de Voisin still together just behind. 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝 chasing. Now that is going to be an interesting chase. I don't think... Grabmuller, by my estimation, Steve, is probably likely to stay where she is at the moment. But the interesting one is Pathier, who, by her standards, is maybe a little bit off it at the moment. She said this year is not about the World Cup for her, it's about the World Championships.
Yes, that's true.
Well, let's remind ourselves that that last year, 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝 was second to Solène 𝐵𝐿ohan. At the moment, she's in fourth, so she's got work to do as well to chase down de Voisin and Meyerhofer, but they are flying, those two. That's going to be a big ask with what is quite a big geographical gap between them at this stage, Steve.
Yeah, and the thing is, we never know what the conditions. Hopefully they keep their race and they're safe, but push themselves so they don't. You never know what's going to happen on this course.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And right, we don't wish mechanical problems on anyone, but it can happen.
It can.
This is a sport, particularly, if anything, the XTERRA side of our sport is the most likely for there to be upsets. We don't want any.
We don't
in amongst
want
any of the athletes from the front to the last.
Absolutely, not at all.
No. Here they are, though, those two, 𝐿ohan de Voisin and Sandra Meyerhofer. They're in second place at the moment. Let's call them second place at the moment.
They're 10 seconds behind. 10 seconds behind.
That's nothing, Steve. It's really closed up then.
It'll be coming down to their speed, what's their cadence, how do they engage.
Well, they keep that going. They've got enough of the climb to go before they get to the lake at the top. I think if they keep that going, and it seems to be under the pressure of 𝐿ohan de Voisin, they're going to catch Solène 𝐵𝐿ohan.
Yeah, if they keep challenging us, and we'll see where Solène is be able to hold the pressure, leading the race, not knowing where contingency is. But I've seen Solène lead a lot of the races this year, and so she has that experience of not worrying per se, but she needs to race her race in order to get this to happen today.
She seems to me, Steve, I mean, it helps when you're as good as she is and you're a two-time world champion. It buys you a bit of confidence, but she seems to be the calmest, least emotional of the best of our elite women. And I've had a chance to watch her this week because she's staying in my hotel, and she seems to have gone about everything this week, detaching herself, keeping herself very quiet. If I was the two-time world champion, I'd be walking around the place, waving a flag, whooping a flag in the air and signing.
I would be doing how I cheer on the Americans and the mid-hours.
No, but very, very calm, focused, and much the same in race as she is around the race too. And we are, I think, if we're closing in, who are we following here? We're following Serrier. Where is Farissier?
Is that him ahead?
Well, once again, a little bit of daylight. So at the moment, Félix Farissier is getting the better of Arthur Serrier on this mountain bike leg. Not by much. but just we've seen this happen on 2 or 3 occasions now where he's been distanced and having to work his way back on. And just as we said with 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐿 Steve, every time you work your way back on, even if you can make it look easy, it's going to take that little bit away from you that you might need for a final sprint.
You're putting exertion into this.
Yeah. Head down from Arthur Serrière there, just looking down at the bike. I hope everything's all right. Félix Forissier just continuing. Now, Forissier would do well to press on here and not look back, because the last couple of times this happened with Serrière, he's looking round all the time. So not looking around there as they go through the feed station onto the road. Still climbing too. He looks all right, now defending champion.
Very controlled.
There's still an awful lot more climbing to go in this lap too. This is 𝐖𝐸𝐵𝐿 in 4th place. Is she able to close up on Sandra Meyerhoff and Loane Duvoisin? We're very close. Might well be that next time we see the leaders up at the lake at the top of the forest, we could well see Solène Billouin, Loane Duvoisin and Sandra Meyerhoff all together. 𝐖𝐸𝐵𝐿, second, silver medalist at the World Championships here 1 year ago, currently in 4th. And with a bit of work on her hands, I think, to get onto that podium, because if they hook up, they're going to rock on together, those leading 3, and she's all by herself, 𝐸𝐵𝐿. Back to the lead of our men's race. Arthur Serrière getting just about back in touch again.
He's inching that stride by stride here.
Yeah. As we've seen throughout this season so often, 2 Frenchmen in the lead. Steve, I was saying to Nicole, it's a great shame not to have Arthur Forissier here with us as well, despite the fact that we have a confusion of having 2 Forissiers and 2 Arthurs in the same leading trio. But all the same, you know, not having both brothers here, it is a shame, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And, you know, our heart goes out, you know, for healing and all of that with his brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the graphic showing the chase from 𝐻𝐸𝐵𝐿. There he is. He's just gone over or just about to go over the road crossing as well.
So he's working and dialing them in, but he has a lot of work to put in. And as you mentioned, the exertion to be able to catch up with them.
Yep, he's the only one of our elites who rides that lefty fork at the front of the field anyway. Cannondale racer. Those of you who maybe don't know your mountain bikes, it's a fascinating design, that, and Cannondale have gone with that for a long time now, the single-sided fork. This is Annette Grabmüller, who was second out of the swim, and she is currently in 5th position, trying to chase 𝐸𝐸𝐵𝐿, but she's quite a long way down. She's around about another minute behind 𝐸𝐸𝐵𝐿. It's the same place where we picked up 𝐸𝐵𝐿. Grabmüller still sitting very low in the saddle, just ticking away on that bike. She's got a quite distinctive style, hasn't she?
Oh, she does. You definitely can tell her, you know, a lot of these riders, each rider has their own style.
Yeah, Annette Grabmüller will enjoy the second half
Maxime
of it. Let me guess, he's in 4th. I think he is. He's even got number 34 on his plate as well. Yeah. Come on, Max.
Come on, Max.
Come on, Max. Yeah, absolutely. I'm all in for him getting 3rd. I'm going to say it, 3rd or 5th. I don't want him to come 5th.
No.
But he himself has stated he sees himself as a podium athlete at World Championship level.
Absolutely, and honestly, the high caliber of athletes that we have racing today, any one of these athletes can get on the podium or even win.
And Steve, that's the fascinating thing actually, as we look at our leading athletes here. Maybe the standout, the different one is Loane Duvoisin, because actually in amongst all the other 5 of our leading 6 athletes across men's elite and women's elite races, they're all dedicated XTERRA specialists.
They are, absolutely, and that's the key point of this. You know, they train, they follow the World Cup, they hit at the local regional races, and it is the XTERRA. It's focused on the mountain biking, the trail running. That's what's really special to see that. And you see those that really pertain to that and focus on that really thrive. But again, you bring in crossover athletes, they're just as strong and get that more experience on the bike, they'll be up there.
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. You obviously, you work full-time in XTERRA and you look after all of the Americas. You've got an interesting insight into this. To me, who's come back to the sport, having been away from it for a while, it's been fascinating to see how it's grown. I talk about the 28-year history of this race going back to 1996 as a World Championship, but now we have this World Cup as well, which means that these athletes, through the enormous amount of prize money across the whole season, are supported doing a full professional year of racing.
Yeah, and part of the World Cup is we have races on each continent, whether it's Asia Pacific, in the Americas, or also in EMEA or Europe. And these you really showcase the athletes to a broader audience to really engage XTERRA, the XTERRA brand, and then focus on building each of these athletes, their own brand, and representing them and help grow.
Solène Billon is still by herself, but we're looking for the front wheel of 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴. They've not caught her yet as we just zoom out. Is that them coming across? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
They're
it
pushing
is.
in the time. They have her in sight. They're going to be working together, perhaps.
It's still Sandra Meyerhofer, the Italian, who sits in third. 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴 is doing the hard chasing at the front, and whether I guess what we don't know at the moment, we might be able to tell on the final run maybe on that run, is whether Meyerhofer is desperately hanging on or whether she's deliberately sitting in, because they're two different things, Steve, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. You know, definitely there's strategies within this, and it looks like they definitely have something working together.
Well, it's interesting to see 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴 going for arm coverings as well. She's got a long sleeve
We just
undertop
saw
on.
Sullivan was just there, and here comes Josiah, the dad, 𝐵𝐵𝐴.
Yes, 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐴, the 2015 world champion, going through shot. They've caught Gilles Dumas, so I have to say, Josiah 𝐵𝐵𝐴 is absolutely flying today,
Go
Steve.
Josiah.
He's got a chance here. Can he beat his son, though, on that run? I don't know about that.
I've seen them race neck to neck for years, specifically in the USA Championship and North America Championship.
Oh, brilliant racing.
Yeah, definitely a competitive family, and when it comes to the starting line, there's no holds bar.
So Josiah 𝐵𝐵𝐴 in 6th currently, along with or just behind his 22-year-old son, Sullivan 𝐵𝐵𝐴. Just looking back down beyond the top 10 to see where that Porter, the other of the 𝐵𝐵𝐴s, is. He's not in the top 10, but he'll be there. We'll pick him up come the finish. Don't worry about that. Let me give you the men's top 10 as it is at the moment. Felix Farissier and Arthur Serrier leading. 𝐻ens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen getting closer, but not quite close enough yet for that final run. Max Chanet in 4th, of course. Sullivan 𝐵𝐴𝐴 and Josiah 𝐵𝐵𝐴 in 5th and 6th. I must say, Steve, I'm delighted to be saying that out loud, because I didn't think I'd be saying that today. So good. Right, this is Alizé Patier in 4th place in the women's elite race for these world championships. Last year's silver medalist. Not just looking to get on the podium again this year. No. She's come here to try and win. Now, I have to say, at the moment, doesn't appear to be going quite in her favour. She's working hard up here, but stuck in 4th at the moment, Steve.
And we'll see where she, again, she's starting, the second climb here, so we'll see where she's at.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a long way yet to go, and that run, 2 laps, is tough. 2 5-kilometre laps, and I've gone and run a couple of times now the technical section of that run, and it's really hard.
Yes.
If you've got any cramping coming on or anything like that, Steve, it's going to be all sorts of problems.
Yeah, and this year they actually changed the course direction. So last year they had a rope climb that was actually steeper. So yes, that is out of it, but the overall run will be very taxing and tiresome.
Well, yeah, I know the road run you're talking about, Steve. I run it this week. The only problem is it's now a descent.
Yes, it is.
And you know what it's like. If your quads are killing you after this bike leg, which they will be, and you're suddenly bang, bang, bang downhill, not nice, is it?
No, and then when they run across the beach, it's from the hard downhill section, the pavement, then running on the sand across the beach. That's going to be tough.
Well, wherever you're watching, sat around the world, if you're sat comfortable on your sofa, enjoying watching these athletes competing in the beautiful Brenta Dolomites, if you've got a little hammer, just constantly take it to your quads and just keep hammering them. Then hammer them harder, and you'll be getting a feel for what these athletes are going to go through on that final run, because it is, an awful lot of banging, downhill running, and then steep, technical, slippery, uphill, not even running, scrambling in places. Proper XTERRA style,
yes,
Steve,
it is,
isn't it?
absolutely.
Right, these are live pictures back at the top of the bike course, looking across the beautiful lake. It looks like the style of Annette Grabmüller. Sorry, it's not at all. As we zoom in a bit closer, I do apologise. I'm completely wrong. Yes,
Felix
it is.
and Arthur.
Yes, it is.
So yes, let me correct you. That is Felix, followed by Arthur.
Oh dear. Just trying to do my best to pick out form looking across the lake. Completely wrong, of course. Yes, it's our 2 leading men, Felix Farissier in the dark skin suit. They're being picked up by a e-bike, I should say, around the boardwalk berm and into the technical section. So now they're starting the descent back down to town for the final time, Steve.
Yeah, here we go. It's going to be a fast downhill section. They should be coming into the town here shortly. We'll definitely see who's going to be following that and leading into transition.
All right, looking for the big Dane on the charge in the white tri-suit, 𝐻ens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen. Oh, it's been all too much for someone.
Yes. Hello, puppy.
Yeah. Oh, I know where I'd rather be right now. That's quite nice.
Bathing in the sun, right?
Yeah, autumn sunshine in the Dolomites.
Look at that view. This is why you ask about why do we come here to Trentino. Look at this beautiful venue.
Oh, it's incredible. It is incredible.
Is that?
Yes, it
yes,
is.
it is. Jens.
Yep. 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐿 now. A lake and a half behind our leading two. That's what I'll call it, around this lake up here, because they've already started the swoopy whoopy descent back down to Morveno. It won't be long until we see 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐿 rocking in there. I would say, one thing I would say from a stylistic point of view, he's got quite a short stem. It's part of the reason he's such a good bike handler. But he's quite upright on the bike, Steve. You see that? It's very fast round the lake there, and he doesn't tuck much.
No, and then his downhill descent is really strong. That's what I've always been impressed is his downhill skills. So hopefully he'll be able to pick up some speed and put some distance, close the distance on the other two.
We've just seen him drop his dropper post as well. So he sits down on the saddle, presses the little button on his handlebars, for those of you who aren't aware of this, and then his seat post just drops down and the saddle is out of the way, so he can move around on the bike, angle and get his weight exactly where he wants it without the saddle banging him in the undercarriage. It's one of the slightly newer things that's come into mountain biking over the last 8 to 10 years, but something that pretty much all of these elites are now doing.
Oh, they're all, I wouldn't say they all do, but yes, the majority of them put those in.
Yeah.
It's a whole game changer for these athletes.
Yeah, in the same way that suspension forks and clipless pedals were way back in the early 90s, well, prior to Michelle Jones and Jimmy Ricciutello taking those first ever titles, back when in the first year it was called XTERRA.
XTERRA, yes, it was. And then, following years became XTERRA.
Yeah. Steve, while we watch Max Chaney now about to go into the descent in 4th place, what's next for XTERRA? I'm talking about the formation of the World Cup, the inaugural youth and junior champs tomorrow. Where are we going? What are we going to be talking about in 3 or 4 years?
Right, with big focus with XTERRA is, elevating the sport. And part of that is finding new locations, partnering with communities, developing amazing venues, and then creating an atmosphere around the event. It's not just the race, it's the atmosphere that comes around it for the spectators, for the participants. And then big development is this continuing growth of the youth tour. We see big opportunities with that. This is the inaugural year for the youth championship, but enhancing and working with organizers, working with federations to enhance and grow the youth series.
Well, you can see, everyone who's watching this at home around the world, you can watch the inaugural Youth and Junior World Championships tomorrow. We've got Youth A and Youth B, boys and girls, and then Junior men and Junior women, as we tend to call them, also racing for their World Championship tomorrow. So a big day of racing to close World Championships week here from the Italian Dolomites, the Brenta Dolomites in the far north of Italy. Looking up into the mountains now, the wispy white clouds. The clouds are almost a necessary thing to add the beauty as well, Steve.
it does. And this morning, looking up at the peaks, watching the clouds wisp over those mountain peaks, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. If you've not been to this is my first time in the Dolomites this week, Steve. I know you've obviously been here before.
I've been here before, but I still get that, emotional draw. It's like, oh, amazing.
Yeah, quite different to other mountain ranges around the world. If we compare them to the Alps, the Pyrenees and beyond, and what you have in America, it's almost as if you've taken an incredible mountain range and then you just squeeze it and just squash it all together.
You squish it and then it pops up, or it looks just like it looks like someone painted that scenery.
Yeah. I went out for an early morning run yesterday and stood on basically a dry waterfall.
Look who we have
down.
coming in now. Yes, Jens is coming in strong.
Yep. It won't be too long until he's on the road descent into transition and onto the short track course as well. Well, I don't know, looking at this now, Steve, whether he is going to make the catch. If he does, he's got a much better chance of winning. My thinking is, we've seen him close up gaps from further down the field on the run, but actually getting back in touch with Serrier and Forissier on that run is a big ask.
That is going to be tough, because those two are going to be pushing each other strong, and for him to have to try to play catch up, it's not saying it's not possible, but definitely he's got a task ahead of him.
Yeah, he needs to see if he can catch them before the bottom. In fact, I'm glad we're seeing this bit, because I think we're seeing it for the first time. This is when we're about to pop into the really fastest section. This is following Forissier here, trying to stay as close to him as we can. Now, this is a new part of the course this year where it's been opened up, and it's there's a fair bit of coppicing gone on. We pop out of the trees here and it's suddenly very open. Here we go.
Yep, take a hard left here, and then
we can see straight down to the town in Morveno below, can't we?
Now we're going to be coming to the town village that we talked about.
Yep. I'm glad we're going to see this bit, because this is really quick through here. You can see our e-biker desperately trying to keep up with Forissier.
Oh, he's going to look at it, turn around to catch, hopefully, Arthur coming through.
Yeah, we're looking for Arthur Serrier.
Maxime.
So Max Chaney should still be in fourth. He is trying to chase 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, and actually that would be useful. We'll look for the gap between Chaney and Sloth-Nielsen through the chicane, just backing off the speed. Now, why is 𝐸𝐸 distant from Forissier? There seems to be again, and this happened at this point of the course last time, didn't it, Steve? This gap opened up between the two of them.
I don't know what it is, but let's see where it is. It's going to be a great race. Hopefully Arthur can actually catch him.
Ripping back through town here as well. Moveno has really taken these World Championships to its heart over the last few years. It's one of the biggest events here to happen every year now as well, and the locals not just know it, but they host it and love it.
Yeah, they roll out the red carpet here, and definitely for all the athletes in XTERRA family.
I think we are following Arthur 𝐸𝐸, our defending world champion, in that red and black skin suit. These chicanes are here really not for technical, they're actually to slow the athletes down.
Yes, you've got to slow down.
Yeah.
Coming to this section right through here as they turn left and then head down to the village.
Right, we actually can't keep up with our two leaders. I think it is 𝐸𝐸 that we're tracking.
And I mention that our athlete or our rider on the e-bike is definitely a skilled biker, so it tells you how.
Yeah, you're getting to see the whole of the bottom part of this bike course. It is just like, we've just seen us rattling down the steps there. It is just like the urban downhill that you see very often.
No, it is one of the other series that it's out there. Yes, absolutely.
We're just now back on the edge of the lake again, so very close to transition, extremely close to transition, and that will give us those gaps going into the final leg of this World Championship, the 10-kilometre 5K lap trail run to come. And particularly technical, as I say, in that second half of the run as well. We're watching Félix Forissier, I think. I'm looking in on the shot. Yep. No, this is, hang on. Yes, it is Félix Forissier,
yes,
thank you.
And Arthur should be coming soon, but look at the gap. He's actually put some distance in.
Again. And over the last few rounds of the World Cup, it's been very even between Félix Forissier, who pops his dropper post as well, ready for the jumps. Cleanly over there, again quite a heavy rear wheel landing, but Félix Forissier getting closer to transition. And this is a distinct mental advantage, Steve, surely, for him to lead out of transition, start the run with clear air around him.
And still no gap with Arthur.
No, we're not seeing Arthur 𝐸𝐸, our defending champ. There he is. There he is. Straight into the steep shoot down. No great panic, Steve.
Now, it's now come to the run.
Yeah.
Who's quick in a transition? What does that look like?
That's Forissier up alongside the tent where Steve Andrews and 𝐸𝐸 𝐂𝐸 are talking to you from, right alongside where they're going now. They then do a loop around the edge of the mini golf, the mini go-kart track as well, I saw, or something like that, Steve. I don't know if you've seen it being used. I think it's a radio-controlled kart
I think
track.
it is. It's a little RC, radio-controlled track, yes.
Yeah.
If it was mini regular driving, I don't think they'd allow me in that, but I was hoping to drive.
Yeah. Alongside the two pump tracks as well off to the right. You can see them right there. I haven't yet had a chance to ride around them yet, but they look fun. One of them is more of a skills track and one is a pumpy pump track as well.
Yes, it is, yes. And you see a lot of youth playing on that.
Yes, absolutely. Right, so Félix Forissier is going to lead in. He was the silver medalist at last year's World Championships right here. And he's going to lead into T2 in the lead, but only slightly over the defending champion Arthur 𝐸𝐸. And our top three from last year are the top three here going into the final run, just in a slightly different order. 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen is chasing.
Félix coming into transition.
So the Frenchman, last year's silver medalist, this year's World Cup, I think we can probably safely say now, World Cup winner. This is the final round, of course. 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen in third.
He's got a gap to fill up. We talked about that. He's definitely got a gap to get in there to be that top position.
Right, let's watch the body language of Arthur 𝐸𝐸, our defending world champion, knowing he is in silver medal position right now. But
it appears he's very relaxed. He's very relaxed. We'll see how that comes. It's definitely, Félix has some space on that.
Yeah, they're in transition together, but Félix Forissier running out, and he won't start too hard either. We see so many, we see it particularly amongst the age groupers, don't we, Steve, of athletes trying to run out too hard, and easing yourself into this discipline is
Instead
important.
of having a race, they want to play catch-up from transition versus a skilled attack. Okay, right. There we go. Jez, I'm going to be leaving you. I'm going to head back over to finish. I'm going to go be cheering people on. I'm going to turn the time back over to Nicole. It's been a pleasure with you today. And I look forward to more of this. Go XTERRA, and we'll cheer you on soon.
Thank you very much, my good man. So that was the voice of Steve Andrews. I think he'll probably join me back on the mic again tomorrow at some point during the youth races. And it won't be too long before we slot Nicole Walters back in as well to give us her thoughts on the run leg for both the elite men and the elite women. Right now, last year's silver medalist, this year's World Cup winner, Félix Forissier in the lead. And this is the fast part of the run leg. This is the smooth part on the road, running out westward. They run out along the edge following what's called the Giro del Lago, the Tour of the Lake, which is the beautiful 11-kilometre loop which takes you all the way around the edge of Lake Morveno. I've run it and walked it this week. It's about an hour and a half's walk if you go nice and steady, and it's absolutely stunning as well. But they don't stay on the smooth tarmac for long. They then turn off at the far end on that first 5k after, as you might expect, around about 2k, turning off the smooth tarmac and onto the technical, slippy, rooty run as well to bring them back into town. We're watching third place at the moment, 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, who'll need to be careful because he's had penalties this year for issues in transition. He needs to keep the transition zone tidy. That's what we say, and basically anything he takes off has to go in that box. You're not allowed to leave things lying outside the box or even hanging out of the box. Wetsuit arms and legs, for instance, have to be in the box. He pulls on a race number belt, elasticated race number belt, and just looked a little bit uncertain of where to run out there, 𝐸𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen. We don't want problems for any of these athletes. Félix Forissier is up onto one of the little ramps that climbs him away from lake level, and he is in the lead. I'm pleased to say I am once again joined by Nicole Walters. Nicole, what's it like out there? Because you've been outside our little tent here.
Oh, it's lovely. The sun has come out, it's shining, it's really nice conditions now.
Beautiful. That is... Well, it's what we wanted. I don't know if it's what we expected, so we've been blessed today.
Definitely wasn't forecast, was it?
No,
So
no.
yeah, nice surprise for the athletes today that the sun has come out and warming up.
Oh, Félix Forissier looking round to see where Arthur Serrier is. I think somewhere in the back of his mind. He might be trying to suppress it, he might be trying to crush the thought down, but he knows that Serrier is so good at the run chase, isn't he? Max Chanet in fourth place. I just know it, Nicole. I hate to say it, but I just know that I can see him now staying in fourth place at the finish, and I do not want this for this guy who's Mr. Fourth all season this year. He's consistently fourth, and he's desperate to be on the podium this time round. Let's see what he can do on this run. The biker's getting out of the way. Félix Forissier now out on the Giro del Lago, going westward, running away from transition, and he goes up a couple of gradual climbs, goes past the waterfall, doesn't he, before he then turns a steep left and down and starts the really technical element of this run.
Yes, this is quite a draggy bit of the run course. I think it's probably tougher than it looks. You're sort of straight out of transition, nice draggy flat bit of gravel. But yeah, the athletes will be able to see each other on this section of the course, so they'll have a little note of Félix will be able to see Arthur, and we can see him coming now. It'll be interesting to see how this run plays out. What are going to be the tactics between these two athletes? There's not much opportunity to get into a rhythm on this course either. This is probably the smoothest section of course that there is before they've got a nice challenging tough climb up, and they wind their way down through the woods. There's some pretty slippy sections to come through the woods with some roots and some rocks, some very steep downhills that are really going to burn the legs. But at the moment Arthur Serrier is looking really smooth in his stride and back up onto the heels of Félix Forissier. So just getting into their pace now at the front of this race. And what a great race it's been so far. So our two leaders, Félix Forissier and Arthur Serrier. Arthur just pushing in front now to take the lead from Félix. We'll see if he continues this little stride out to put a gap into him. And a really lovely run course that we've got. Yes, it's tough, but there's plenty to look at. They'll have a nice view of the lake. There's some waterfalls, and here they are into the first steep section. This is really challenging, this bit of the course.
Nico, I can't help but think that Felix Faricia, talk about suppressing that expectation of Arthur Serrier coming back to him, but that's exactly what's happened, isn't it? Serrier seems so good at instantly closing gaps.
He is, yeah, just that turnover of leg speed, and that little carrot dangling in front of him. He can see it and just focus in on that, and away he goes.
The technical elements of this run course will suit 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen. I think in terms of pure, like, maintained top-end run speed, he's going to struggle to close to those two up front. But then this is the very end of a very tough XTERRA triathlon. It's a great leveler, isn't it? And now that there does come a point, Nicole, I always think this, particularly in the off-road side of our sport and in a world championship as well, there's that mental element, the grit, the determination to make something happen.
Yes, and as I know we're onto the run now, so perhaps there's less that can go wrong on the run course than there is on the bike. But if you haven't got your race right up until this point, and you've perhaps pushed too hard, you've not taken on the nutrition that you've needed, it can still all fall apart for you. So still, from this point, anything can happen, really.
Look at the leg speed of Denmark's 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen here in third place, knowing he's chasing two of the best off-road athletes in the world right now, but he's right there up amongst them. And his swim today, helped by the fact, I'll remind viewers, in case you weren't with us for the beginning of our broadcast, it was a half-distance swim, 750 metres rather than 1,500 metres, because of the water and air temperature at the time. From what I can tell from the age group is I think they're doing the full-distance swim because it has warmed up now quite considerably, but that's where things were this morning when we started at 10 o'clock. Looking back into transition now as we continue to see more of the elites coming in. This is 𝐸𝐤𝐸, who had a great start today, slipped back a little bit, but he finds himself, I think, just outside that top 10. He's in, I do apologise, he's in 9th place. So let me give you the top 9 as they've come into transition so far. As we know, Felix Faricia and Arthur Serrier led in first and second, and then it was 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, Max Chanet in 4th, 𝐸𝐸𝐸 in 5th place, Seb Carabin, the Belgian, in 6th, Sullivan Midar in 7th. So he's dropped back behind his dad now. His dad, 𝐸𝐸𝐸 Midar, is in 5th place, one of the elder statesmen and former world champion in this top 10, up in 5th place at the moment. His son, winner of our short track on Thursday, Sullivan Midar, in 7th. And then in 8th place, Baptiste Fauducel, the Frenchman. 9th place, 𝐸𝐸𝐸. So once again, an awful lot of French athletes in that top 10 as it stands. Only 9 elite men through so far. We await the arrival of Solène Billois, Loane Duvoisin and Sandra Meyerhofer in the top 3. We're watching Max Chanet here now on the road climb, very gradual road climb, running away from transition.
He's still looking strong. He doesn't look like he's struggling at all here.
No, very different cadence to 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, a little bit longer stride, a longer, more relaxed stride from Max Chanet. It can be deceptive as well. Can he get anywhere near 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen? Actually, that could be a really interesting battle to watch, that one, for that 3rd place at the moment. I mean, anything could happen, Nicole, but that will certainly be what Max Chanet will be thinking about.
And the run course this year is the opposite direction to what it has been in previous years. And I almost think it's a little bit nicer for the athletes to have this section of road just to stretch the legs out on when they come off the bike.
No, I totally agree. I've only ever, obviously, of course, I've watched the coverage from last year, but this is now this is the entry to the technical stuff. And Arthur Serrier's got a gap. For the first time today, he has a gap over Felix Faricia. That's not happened at all until this point. And he's used the downhill to lean in, stride out, and get a little bit, just a few seconds over Felix Faricia. They are now going into that technical section. From now on, the next 2 kilometres are constantly up, down, muddy, rooty, clambery, is that a word? Well, we'll use it anyway. You know what I mean, where you've got to literally use your hands to pull yourself up on trees, and it's a very XTERRA section to this run.
And Arthur Serrier is so good on these technical descents running. He's just so light on his feet. He knows exactly where he's going to put his foot, and he must have ankles of steel. Arthur is really, really good at these descents.
Let's have a look on our women's race as they get closer and closer to transition. They are just about to come to the lake for the 2nd time at the top. It says here, as you can see, 𝐸𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝, our defending champion, still leading by herself. And, hello, 𝐸ħhofer has gone ahead of 𝐸ovișan as well. So something's happened there, assuming that is correct, and our GPS trackers rarely lie. 𝐸ħhofer now in between 𝐸𝐵𝐿1 and 𝐸ovișan, our top three. Now that is fascinating because 𝐸ħhofer appeared to have been sitting on 𝐸ovișan, who was doing all the chasing in the purple, the Swiss woman. But at the moment, those three now separated. We're looking at Josef Middahl, the 2015 world champion, the dad of the two lads who are also racing in this race. At the moment, the father is in 5th place and teaching the two youngsters a lesson or two. That's so good to see, isn't it?
And that's Solène just heading into the descent there for the final time. Yeah, looking really smooth round those turns. She'll be pleased to hit this descent. And back on the run course with some of our elite men here.
Yeah, let's not forget, not just amongst our elite athletes, we now have age groupers out on course as well, on the bike course as well. You'll be able to keep up with all the results throughout the day, check them through the official website, but also if you watch on our YouTube channel, we're going to be showing you the finish line of all of the age group finishes this afternoon too. So a great way of keeping up to date with the Elite World Championship, the Age Group World Championships, and then don't forget, Nicole and I bringing you live coverage tomorrow of the inaugural Youth and Junior World Championships from here in Moveno as well. There are our women. Solène Billon, our defending champion, in the lead as she's starting the descent now. She's about a third of the way into the descent back down to town in Moveno. And Sandra 𝐸ħhofer, home favourite, Italian athlete, let's not forget, already a winner in the World Cup this year. She was the champion in Namur at the Citadel in Belgium. Can she do it today in front of a home crowd who are going to be going nuts for Sandra 𝐸ħhofer, I presume, Nicole, today?
Yes, and I wonder perhaps if Luan's had a technical issue on the bike, if that's perhaps why she's dropped backwards a little bit. Because she was looking really strong when she sort of came round for that second lap.
This is Sandra 𝐸ħhofer now by herself, so she'll know what's happened to Loane 𝐸ovișan, I suspect, but 𝐸ovișan was doing all the work in this pairing in second place, but now we see Sandra 𝐸ħhofer, home favourite, Italian athlete in the silver medal position, chasing the two-time world champion Solène Billon. She looks good, 𝐸ħhofer.
She does. She'll make light work of this descent. Very, very good on these technical descents on the mountain bike.
Right, I suspect in a moment we'll also pick up a shot of Loane 𝐸ovișan in third. There we're seeing the time gap. Look how much time she's lost to 𝐸ħhofer already.
Yeah, two minutes.
Something's gone wrong there, I think. We don't know what it is, whether it's technical, whether it's bike handling related or what. That's very odd. Of course, it could be a physiological thing. It could be the dreaded hunger knock or something like that. But to suddenly lose 2 minutes in that time, something has happened. Dare I say it, 2 minutes is about the kind of time it might take you to re-inflate a tyre or something if you've had a puncture. I'm not saying that's happened, but it's a very sudden 2-minute gap.
And 𝐿𝐸𝐨 close behind Loane now.
Yes, very close. Yeah, Patier now with a good opportunity to get up onto that podium. Of course, both of them very good runners too. There we go. Sandra 𝐸ħhofer with a great opportunity here. Sorry, a big performance in front of a home crowd.
And this is Solène that we're just following down this descent now.
Well, we saw Solène Billon handling this technical descent really well the first time round. We'll expect much the same this time. And I guess, Nicole, as well, these athletes, many of them will have chosen a specific line they're taking through these technical elements. And the second time round, if you got it right the first time round, you don't change anything, do you, right?
No. I mean, there's obviously the course might change between the first and second laps, but for these athletes, there won't be much of a difference. They probably would have ridden the course for the last time perhaps on Thursday. The course was closed for a period of time while we had the really bad rain to try and make sure that it didn't change too much. So it's perhaps been a couple of days since these athletes went round the course, but certainly between the first and second laps, there's not going to be much difference.
I'm just looking to see who we're picking up here. Always tricky when we're looking from our drone shot across the top of the lake. One of our men, what we want to see is Loane Duvoisin, where she is, and also what has happened to her. That will be very useful for 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝, because Patier's gap to that leading three was quite big before, but now, as you say, Nicole, all of a sudden, 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐵𝐴 with a golden opportunity to minimum get up onto the podium as well. Bearing in mind she was a silver medalist last year. So far, how do I say this politely? She's of the top players in this elite women's race. She's the one that's probably had the most disappointing race by her very high standards.
Yeah, and if Loane can manage to stay in contact with 𝐖𝐨 during this bike as well, I think Loane's perhaps got the edge when it comes to the run.
Picking up a beautiful black and white Dalmatian down by Lakeside. We're dipping in and out of picking up coverage from the top part of our course. I have to say, our television production company here, Piper Vision, have done a brilliant job of bringing you what is a really difficult technical event to broadcast worldwide from out in the forest and around the Dolomites Mountains. Here comes Sandra Meyerhofer, and that's our camera biker just behind her, picking up her shot too. They've done a brilliant job today. Our riders out on the camera bikes, on the e-bikes out on course, having to get everything right technically, not getting in the way of the athletes or adding pace to them, but bringing us these fantastic live shots. We're looking at the run right here, and Arthur Serrière, the defending champion, who is now in the lead.
And he's on his way back to transition as well to complete his first lap, so he's made short work of that first lap of the run course.
Yep, he's exited. In fact, unfortunately there we've not been able to pick up the technical part of the run course, because it's almost, well, actually I would say it's impossible to take an e-bike round it. It's too technical, too narrow and steep in places as well, so we might see a few shots in there, but it's going to be hard to bring you them.
And that's Loane and 𝐖𝐨 that we
Yes,
can
it
see there
is.
now.
Ooh.
𝐖𝐨 looking to get past, isn't she?
Yes, she is. 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐵𝐴 just going up the inside of Duvoisin there. So possibly 𝐵𝐵𝐴 here. There we go. She wants to make the move. She's going to need to be careful though. There's no panic at the moment, is there, Nicole?
No, I mean she's going to want a gap on Loane going into the run. And she's going to make that time on this descent now. So she does need to get past as soon as she can, really.
So for the first time today, I can say this, we have both of our defending champions in the lead of their race. This is Arthur Serrière going and aiming to be the first ever athlete in history to win 3 in a row at an XTERRA World Championship. And he is in the lead right now. As he comes through transition, he's alongside the campsite right now. It levels out here flat on the grass, very fast part of the course this, ever so slightly downhill if anything. Arthur Serrière running towards transition, and he will loop back round again at the other side of the campsite and start his second and final lap. He looks really good at the moment for his 3P, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? So he had to wait a few years to be able to get his win, and I think that's really motivated him to push on his performance and to really reach almost a new level in the sport, that he can take that third win today.
𝐵𝐴𝐴 up into third. Where is Duvoisin, and what on earth has happened to her? Let's watch her bike as she goes past us, see if we can see any obvious signs of anything. No. This is very, we're going to have to, well, I suspect we'll hear about that in post-race interviews, Nicole, but it is odd how she suddenly lost 2 minutes. And I think, if anything, the reason we were seeing 𝐵𝐴𝐴 desperately trying to get past her was for whatever reason. I think 𝐵𝐴𝐴 felt she was carrying greater speed and wanted to get rid of Duvoisin there in a polite way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I think 𝐖𝐨𝐴's probably better at the technical descents than Loane, whereas Loane will have the edge on the run, so it's making that time where you're good at it. So 𝐖𝐨𝐴 was going to want to get past as soon as she could on that descent.
Arthur Serrière going through transition, ready for his second, well not through transition, past transition, ready for his second run lap. Heading out on it now, in actual fact, in front of the crowd. You can hear the noise from outside. They are loving this. And there is a French 2-time world champion with just 5 kilometres to go as he goes over those ramps. And those ramps right now, Nicole, will hurt, won't they?
Oh, they will, and I don't think it matters how fit or how strong you are. You get to this point in a race and things start hurting. But we can see him now, he's about to take on this ramp.
Yeah, it's the second.
Out onto his second lap, 23 seconds ahead of Félix Fourisier.
Right. Come on then, Felix. Let's see what you've got. Second lap of the run to go. These two have been so close together throughout this race. Fourisier quite happy to lead and watching Serrière sitting in behind him, but Serrière has chosen the final part of that first run to do it. Now here comes a defending champion, Solène Bilwan. A little puff out of the cheeks there and a shake of the head as if to say, gosh, I'm glad we've got that out of the way. That jump is done. No more jumps for her. A steep shoot down here, and she's so close to transition. Two defending champions, both looking for the three-peat today, both in the lead of their World Championship right now. Solène Bilwan will look to see what her gap is over Sandra Meyerhofer, the home favourite. But I tell you what, the crowd will go bonkers when Meyerhofer comes into transition, won't they, Nicole?
Oh yes, they will. Home favourite Sandra Meyerhofer. She's finished second here before, and it'll be interesting to see what the gap is now to Solène, if she's going to be able to reel her in on this 10-kilometre run.
We will see. We will see. Both of them have won rounds of the World Cup this year, of course. Sandra Meyerhofer having done it on 2 occasions. What a shame at the moment for Solène Bilwan. Here comes Meyerhofer. She's popped the dropper post as well, straight over the ramp. We don't want any problems on there the last time across it. We want every one of our elites and age groupers to make it cleanly over there and neatly down this final shoot here to complete their 30-kilometre bike leg. Great ride by Sandra Meyerhofer, who was sitting in behind Loane Duvoisin. Now we can look back at it, Nicole, I guess, and say, well, she was using the strength of Duvoisin on the climb before she then opened up the gap in the technical sections as well. She's made it count. Here is our race leader, though, coming into transition. She's undoing her shoes. Solène Bilwan riding her way back into the lead on that bike after being a bit off the pace on the opening swim. I'll remind viewers around the world, wherever you are, that the swim was shortened to just 1 lap, 750 metres, due to air and water temperature. It's now a lovely warm afternoon here in the Italian Dolomites in Molveno, and we are watching a 2-time world champion closing in on the record of Julie Dibbons, who also won 3 XTERRA World Championships in a row. 10-kilometre trail run, 2 lap to come for Solène Bilwan. Here's the graphic. Bilwan, as you can see, in transition. Meyerhofer making her way in there around the edge of the short track course right now.
She's
Nicole,
not too far behind, is she?
That's
Sandra?
what I was going to say.
What
What do you think about Sandra Meyerhofer's chances on this final run?
I mean, it's going to be who's managed their effort better throughout the race so far, isn't it? I think that Solène's perhaps got the edge on the run, but I've said many times, you never know, do you, in an XTERRA? Anything can happen.
And that is why we love it. It's not so easily measured out as a road triathlon. There's so many different elements to it. The steppy steps here, then the downhill section, even using the handrail, the loading on the quads all the time. Nasty. Here comes 𝐖𝐨𝐵𝐺𝐝. How close can she get to Sandra Meyerhofer? She's in 3rd, and actually I have to say she's taken 3rd, but she must have seen Loane Duvoisin and thought, right, minimum podium. Operation podium as an absolute minimum.
Yeah, so hopefully Loane hasn't had a tumble on the bike somewhere, and that's why she's lost those couple of minutes, and hopefully she's doing okay.
Yeah, we will expect her to have her customary strong run as well. Here she is, Loane Duvoisin. She pops the dropper post 2 right the way down with the saddle over the final jump. She's not a million miles behind 𝐖𝐨𝐵𝐺𝐝, and if Patier's going to minimum hold on to 3rd place, she's going to need to run well, isn't she?
She is. She's going to have a really good run today, and Sandra looks, she's only 52 seconds back from Solène, so Solène has got a decent lead.
Yeah.
But there's still 10 kilometres to go, so we're probably looking at 35 to 40 minutes for these ladies on this run.
This is the 2-time world champion, France's Solène Bilwan, who is just striding out on the road section, heading out on the run in the direction of the woods. She's got that technical couple of kilometres to come on the way back in. As we've mentioned, the run reversed from previous years, where it's tended to be technical and lumpy up and down on the way out, and then smooth and fast on the way back. Now it's smooth and fast on the way out, so you get into your running stride and your rhythm, and then just when you're tiring, we hit you with the roots, the rocks, the up, the down, the twisty turns around the trees.
Yeah, and this little slope up here is a good test of how the leg's feeling. It's really quite steep, this little cobbled section that they go up.
Solène Bilwan there just being caught by one of the elite men, as the race is now, as you'd expect them to do, just overlapping a little bit too. 𝐖𝐨𝐵𝐺𝐝 into transition. She's got the shoes left attached to her bike. She's barefoot. She'll be pulling on her trail shoes. Talking of trail shoes, Nicole, we had a bit of a conversation earlier in the week about the kind of shoe type you might want for this final run. what do you think most of the athletes we're wearing? We're looking at the hokers here of 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐺𝐻. What would you be opting for?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a real mixture of terrain on this course. You've got the flat and fast tarmac bit on the way out of transition. You've then got the gravel track. You've got some steep technical climbs and then some slippy technical descents. So kind of an all-round sort of lightweight trail shoe is probably going to be your best bet to cover all ground, and that's likely what most of these athletes have gone with today. So you want a little bit of grip on the sole, but you don't want a shoe that's going to weigh you down.
Luan Voisin in fourth. Look at the timing here as well. The timing you're seeing top left is as they exit transition. So Solène Billouin through in 2 hours and 6 minutes. Sandra Meyerhofer under a minute behind her, 52 seconds. 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐺𝐻 2:40 back. So you have to say it's really that third place on the podium at the moment that's most likely up for grabs between 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐺𝐻 and Luan Voisin. Voisin there 3:20 behind the leader, Solène Billouin. That's a definite battle for that bronze medal right now, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So 40 seconds over 10 kilometres for Luan, I don't think is that much to close. If she's on a usual run form, she can definitely run herself into a podium position here.
These are the conversations that you and I have now had throughout the season, Nicole, while we've been covering this second full season of World Cup action here on the XTERRA circuit. But there is something different that a World Championship does, and you know that. You've competed in Elite World Championships, as have I, but not in XTERRA, thankfully. So I've not had to do the swimming beforehand. But you know that it just changes things, doesn't there, when there's a World Championship at the end of it, compared to any other World Cup race.
It is. It's the big occasion race, isn't it? And athletes will tailor their whole season around this event, wanting to peak for the World Championships. You know, it means a lot to these athletes to be able to compete and then to be able to do well in these events.
Yeah.
And certainly Arthur and Solène have done a really good job of peaking their performance for this event in consecutive years.
Talking of Arthur Serrier, here he is, our defending champion, in the lead of the race, running out the far direction of the course on their second and final run lap. Félix Farissier pulling all sorts of faces, as you might expect. He's a very expressive racer when he's leading and when he's chasing, wherever he is as well, and he will not ease up at all. I doubt at any point there'll be any thought in his mind about, well, I'm happy with second. He's not happy with second, is he? We know that from what he's been saying.
No, and I expect he'll probably have sight of Arthur here, so he'll know what the gap is, and he'll be really trying to, as hard as he can, to close that.
I have to say, Arthur Serrier looks almost too good. He just looks so good compared to the style of Félix Farissier. He's just striding out and just into a lovely, clippy, light rhythm, isn't he? He looks good anyway running, doesn't he? But he looks particularly good today.
Oh, he's so light on his feet, isn't he?
Yeah, there we go. Looking very much the three-time world champion right now, but he still has, well, what's he got? Probably 3k to go in total. He's about 2k into this final 5k run lap, something like that.
Yes, they turn off onto a nice steep technical incline before they start then working their way around and back down through the trees before they take the path alongside the lake to make their way back to the finish.
So at the moment, at this stage, both elite races being led by the defending champions, both of whom are going for 3 in a row. Mathematically, Nicole, everything's working out perfectly, isn't it? But it doesn't always go like that either.
No, so far, the two favourites, Solène and Arthur, leading their respective races.
Well, here is Solène Billouin. And she just makes sure,
making her way into a stride, isn't she?
Yeah, this is a slightly downhill section as well. She's got quite a distinctive sort of quite relaxed run form as well, kind of high arm carry as well in front of her. Quite easy to pick out on the run, Solène Billouin, and so often, interesting enough, not just necessarily in the lead of the race, but so often by herself. She seems to be one of those athletes who, wherever she is in the race, is quite often by herself and not a sort of favouring necessarily a pack athlete. In much the same way that Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen is. I guess it's because they're quite often working their way back through the field again.
Yeah, I mean, so Solène's really quick on her feet. She'll be settling into that run stride now. And they're probably getting a little bit warm now, actually. The temperature's really picked up here. So in contrast from what the start of the day was, they might even start to be feeling the heat.
I know we are in our hemmed down, weighed down tent that we're talking to you from here, alongside Lake Morveno. It was blowy earlier. Now it's like a greenhouse. We're getting cooked in here. So we'll do well to survive this, Nicole. We mustn't grumble, because we could be out there running hard around a 10k in the woods, as these athletes are. I do hope you've been enjoying our live broadcast today. Nicole Walters and I have been enjoying bringing you live coverage of the XTERRA World Cup races throughout this season. It's been absolutely brilliant. I know we're going to be expanding our live coverage of the XTERRA World Cup next year, as this sport just now continues to grow and grow. It's grown steadily since 1996, when it had its first edition in Hawaii, but in the last 3 years, particularly since the World Championships have moved to Europe and the sport itself has widened and grown, taken over new ownership in that time too, XTERRA now has just grown exponentially, dare I say it, and the next few years are going to be particularly exciting for this sport. If you're watching this, by the way, and you think, you know what, I fancy having a go at that, go to xterraplanet.com. It doesn't have to be a World Cup level race. Go and find your nearest XTERRA race in the calendar. There's so many of them spread right the way around the world, and get yourself entered and go and try it. And if you're very new to it, maybe go and try an XTERRA trail race to begin with, maybe. Do the run side of things and get a feel for what the scrambly, very natural off-road running action of XTERRA is. And it might well set you up for having a go at the triathlon. There are also XTERRA duathlons, by the way. So if the swimming isn't your thing and you fancy doing the cross duathlon side of things, you'll find them within the XTERRA calendar as well. Go and check it all out at xterraplanet.com. Well, this lot are ready in the finish chute. They're waiting for Arthur Serrière. We're waiting for Arthur Serrière, and he is looking very good for his third victory in a row. And Nicole, of course, we mustn't forget, he will be the first guy to ever do that. We've had plenty of others who've won I say plenty, a few others who've won 3. The great Conrad Storz, the caveman himself, won, of course, 4 titles, but all spread out a bit as well. But nobody's done 3 in a row before. Ned Overend did 2 in a row. Enrico Llanos won 2 in a row. Getting the 3, though, is a really tough thing to do. Ruben Rizafa won 3, but they were spread out. He won 2 in a row before Josiah Midor took his win in 2015. Josiah Midor, who is closing in on a top 5 finish here as one of the elder statesmen of this field, and beating his 2 lads as well, something which I think is absolutely brilliant. Yes. Brilliant, particularly after what he said the other day about no, I'm not just here to support them in this race, I'm here to beat them, and that is exactly what it's looking like he's going to do today.
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I think we're not far away from seeing Arthur Serrière pop out of the woods and start the smooth, grassy run down to the finish here alongside Lake Morveno after what has been a dominant performance. Felix Furissier's not given up just yet, chasing in second. We'll wait to see what his gap is as they come towards the finish and whether we might get something of a sprint finish. We've had some brilliant sprint finishes in the short track races this year. It's looking today in both the elite men and the elite women like things are just kind of neatly and finely spread out in these races, Nicole. Little gaps. Here is Arthur Serrière, and now he is just going into that technical section, the last bit. So he's got about 2.5k to go, so he's halfway round his final run lap. That's the aid station just before the right-hand turn into the forest, and the scrambly bits come. You can just see the sign there warning athletes of bears. You see that yellow sign in the middle with the black bear on it? Nicole, have you seen any bears this week?
I haven't seen any bears. I was a little bit worried about it when I went walking off into the mountains, but unfortunately haven't seen any.
You've got Big Zoe, the golden retriever, your golden retriever with you, so she would maybe protect you, either protect you or provide a helpful snack to one of the bears.
Just bring the bear to me.
Yeah, bring the bear to. But she's kind of bear-like herself. She's quite a big doggy. Yes, she is the official dog of XTERRA, Zoe, the golden retriever. She's been with us all week as well, and she's in our commentary point right now. She's looking at me. It's nice to have her here, isn't it? Bit of company. in our increasingly warm commentary tent. Right, look at the technical section. Here we go. This is the part of the run that I absolutely love. Félix Farissier is about to go into it, and he's still around about a minute down on 𝐸𝐸. It is looking very much like the three-peat is on. We're following 𝐸𝐸 along the banks of the river. It won't be too long before he's popping out of this forest and lining up for the finish. A Frenchman is looking very likely to take his third World Championship win in a row. But I don't want to speak too soon, Nicole, because he still has a fair bit of way to go, and it's technical, rutted and rooty too.
Yeah, he's not going to let up the pace now, is he? He's going to push all the way to this finish line.
I've always enjoyed 𝐸𝐸's celebrations as well. They're usually quite aggressive, roaring celebrations, so we look forward to seeing that.
He was very, very emotional on that first win, didn't he? The first time he won the World Championships. Such emotion at the finish line as he took that win.
Yeah, you can see the rainbow bands on his left quadricep there going right the way around his tri-suit, something that he maintains and wears all year. He doesn't have to, but chooses to celebrate and mark his year as world champion. He won't have to change his skin suit if he carries on like this, because they will last very nicely into next year. No man since 1996, when the XTERRA World Championships first happened on Maui, Hawaii, has ever won 3 in a row. Talk about someone writing yourselves into the history books. I know there are other athletes like Conrad Stoltz who've won 4, but 𝐸𝐸 today, with this performance, will be cementing himself as one of the greatest off-road triathletes of all time. Solheim Bylwan takes a cup of water and pours it down the back of her neck. That's indication of how warm it's got. Bearing in mind we had people putting on extra layers to go out onto the bike leg earlier. None of that now, because it is a lovely warm Dolomites afternoon here in late autumn in Trentino.
I think we're set for another nice day tomorrow for the youth racing. So
yeah, and what a demonstration for those youth athletes to see today, youth and junior athletes, to be watching the likes of what is now one of the greats of our sport, 𝐸𝐸 at the front of the race. What an inspiration to the young men watching, but then also for the young ladies watching as well, to see Solheim Bylwan also. And you'll appreciate this, Nicole, not just elite athletes at the top of their sport, but dedicated XTERRA professionals who now have a whole season, money to earn through top-level races, great television coverage with brilliant commentators, and and just the sport, which has always been so incredible, now getting this fantastic shop window to the world.
It is, yes, and I think the short track has helped with some of the exposure of the sport as well. Obviously a short, fast race that's over and done within half an hour, it really opens it up for more people to watch and makes it that little bit more accessible for TV coverage, and really showing the exciting elements of the sport.
𝐸𝐸 is now closing in on his 3rd win in a row. He started his season in Greece. He chose not to go to Taiwan and instead to start his season a little bit later. He himself said he felt like he needed a mid-season boost, so he went to altitude and trained like all the great triathletes do, with the mountain bikers, with the trail runners, with the swimmers, separating himself out and making sure he hung with the best to become the best. He is just about to run his way into the record books of being the first man to ever win 3 XTERRA World Championships in a row. He's got our camera biker alongside him, just tracking him and keeping up with what is a brilliant final run leg. It'll be very interesting to see what his run splits are compared to the others. He's going to be well on for having the fastest run split for sure. We're just watching 𝐸𝐸 as she comes down towards the finish. 𝐸𝐸 in the orange cap into the finishing straight. No man in history has ever done this before, and he's closing in on the chute. Let's hope he gets it the right way. We don't want any problems with athletes going the wrong way. 𝐸𝐸, what a legend of our sport. He's got a left-hand turn at some point to turn him in towards that finishing straight, I think. The crowd are ready. We're ready. Wherever you're watching around the world, for goodness sake, get up and cheer this man. Put your hands together, because this has never happened before. 𝐸𝐸 is sensible enough to look over his shoulder, but he's clear. He's got a good minute now on the chaser, Félix Farissier, but 𝐸𝐸 now starting to orchestrate the crowd. He's done this twice before, and this is his 3rd victory, and he now knows it. There's absolutely no chance of him getting caught. It's been a brilliant performance by Félix Pérussier. But Arthur Serrière, becoming the first man to ever win 3 titles in a row, is running towards the finish, and he's running himself into the history books. He is our 2024 XTERRA Men's Elite Champion. Look at that, an outpouring of emotion, aggression and sheer joy from Arthur Serrière. I think that is like putting the thumb down. It's a marker. I said I'd come to do it, and I have. What a performance.
It makes all the effort and dedication that you put into your training worthwhile when it pays off like that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And we are in a French era. We're in an extremely dominant French era, aren't we? We're waiting for Solène Billon to come in, and it'll be a French elite men's and women's championship. And sure enough, wouldn't you know it, a French champion running towards him as well. Félix Pérussier, who's been brilliant all season. He will win the World Cup with his performance today, because this is the final round of the World Cup series in stop 7 of the the World Tour. And Félix Pérussier in the end may have lost a minute to Arthur Serrière on that final run, but he can be very, very happy with his performance. Silver medalist 1 year ago, silver medalist again this year, but World Cup winner to go with it too. And he takes the high fives of the crowd. Félix Pérussier, silver medalist in these World Championships, and still waiting to win his world title. It will come, I'm absolutely certain.
Another great race from Félix. Has been so consistent throughout this season. So taking that World Cup title, the overall, but not quite having enough to beat Arthur Serrière today.
Well, the embrace of 2 great champions of our sport who are pushing each other on, and we need that, don't we, Nicole, at the top of the sport. We need 2 athletes who are that close together, who will continue to push each other on. Each one of these 2, in training at various points this season, will have been thinking about each other. You can't help but do that, because that's why you're out there, on the trails, on the climb, on the track, on the mountain bike, on the turbo trainer, wherever you are, thinking about bettering yourself, making yourself that, whatever it is, 60 seconds quicker, faster, more efficient than the other one.
And they love a great battle out on the race course as well. No one wants to win too easy, do they? No, and that sounds like the sort of polite thing to say, but you're absolutely right. And it's a very XTERRA thing, that as well, the comradeship between these athletes and the desire to leave it all out there. It's a real marker of the off-road sport. When you've got 2 athletes so close together like that, you really do push each other to another level when you're racing, and you don't get that in your training. It's just not quite the same.
No, we're looking at the Great Dane, 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, by himself, as we so often see. He is in 3rd. Max Chanet there in 4th, again, 4th in the World Cup, 4th nearly all year, 4th in the World Championships again. I'm very frustrated about it, Nicole. I've been banging on about it all day, but this is a guy who, well, let's see. He'll move away from 4th at some point. Let's hope he's moving up rather than back. The photo shot for Arthur Serrière. Nobody has ever won 3 in a row before. And it's going to be a fine bronze medal, and a well-deserved bronze medal for 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen. He will be on our podium in the flower ceremonies. We'll bring you, of course, after the finish of the women's race, I suspect. Still looking like he's moving well as well. 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen is another one of those. He's a lovely stylist on the run, isn't he?
He is. He always has a pain face when he's running, but his leg speed is good, and he looks really smooth coming into that finish.
Yeah, it's another one of those high hand carriers, as if he's sort of batting flies away from his chin as he runs along. He might well be, but that's not why he's doing it. He is trying to maintain rhythm and tempo to the finish, and he'll be taking 3rd place. So let's hope he goes the right way in the chute, because he also has a bit of history with, well, we saw him exit transition to start the final run. He seemed uncertain about which way to go. It's normal. I'm sure you've done that at some point, Nicole, as well, where you just get a moment of rush of blood to the head in a race.
Yeah, just that brief moment. Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah, where am I going? It's amazing what racing can do to you, can't it? Just a moment of confusion. So, 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen, who ploughs this lonely furrow as a leading Danish athlete in a very multinational sport, but I'm certain he's inspiring athletes back home in Denmark as well. He is a truly world-class cross triathlete and one of our best XTERRA exponents. Here he comes in towards the finish. 𝐸 Sloth-Nielsen will once again be the bronze medalist, just as he was 1 year ago. The same top 3. fantastic performance again, but the same top three in the same order, maybe showing just how fair this distance of the World Championships is across the standard distance as well. It brings out the best, and the course sorts the rest.
So, and that shortened swim at the beginning of the day hasn't really made too much of a difference today, has it? It's
No, it hasn't. I mean, I was saying at the beginning of the day that I thought it was swinging the flavour of 𝐸𝐸 𝐂𝐴𝐸. I think he would have thought that too. And I did say, I think, at the beginning of our broadcast, Nicole, that this is seemingly his best opportunity now to win this world title today. It's not worked out like that, but it's still a great performance. We look back at the first elite champion to be crowned today. We still have the elite women's race to come. And the finish of that will be getting closer and closer while we focus on this. Don't be too surprised if we pick up Solène Bilwan when she's out on her second run lap as well. Félix Farissier. I'm just reading his face there and his body language. There is joy in there, of course there is. Can you read a bit of disappointment, maybe, Nicole? There is some there.
I mean, he'll have been racing for the win today, so there's always going to be a little bit of disappointment that you didn't get that top spot, but he can still be proud of what he's achieved today with the second position.
There's a definite difference in body language there between the slightly disappointed second place of Farissier and then the elated third place there against 𝐸𝐸. Understandably, I think at the moment that's where we can say where things are. If 𝐸𝐸 is able to continue improving his swim to the point where he's exiting swims in World Cup races consistently close to Serrier and Farissier, then it's a lot more. He'll be getting a lot closer to beating them regularly. This is Solène Bilwan, who is coming towards the end of her first run lap. She panicked me there for a moment. I thought for a second I'd have to do the big build-up. She's not done 2 laps just yet, while we're focusing on on the wins in the men's elite race. But this is Solène Bilwan completing lap 1 of the run. I'm just working that out. She's not done a second lap yet. Yes.
Yeah, no, for 5 kilometres done for Solène, heading out onto this second run lap.
And this will be interesting to see where Patier is and how much, if anything, Sandra Meyerhofer has either closed in or lost. It will be fascinating to watch.
I think that second to fourth position is going to be really interesting to see now, isn't it? And if anyone's getting close to Solène or if she's managed to extend her lead.
Solène Bilwan only just under 2.5 hours of racing so far in this World Championship, starting with that shortened swim, then the 2 big bike laps up in the direction of Andalo, up into the Dolomites, back down through the trail centre, the swoopy berm descent, ripping back down through town, and then this technical, steppy, grippy final run. We can't get cameras everywhere. One of the places we've not been able to get them yet is in that technical section of the forest. That's a really tricky one to bring you whilst we're covering everything else around the race. But take it from me, it is nasty. If you want to see what it's like in there, by the way, and you've got a phone in your hand, this is not a shameless plug, I'm just telling you how you can see that part of the course. If you go to my socials, @𝐤𝐸𝐶𝐿 on Instagram and on Twitter, you'll actually see a video as we see Max Chanet coming in for 4th place. The Frenchman, another Frenchman, takes a glass of, well, I don't know what that is. That champagne maybe? Max Chanet having a drink on course, and he finishes 4th, of course.
Yeah, great race from Max today. He'll be pleased with that 4th position, and I wonder if that's bumped him up a little bit in the World Cup standings.
Good
as well.
shout, yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look at the gaps between them, because Chanet was, surprise, surprise, 4th in the World Cup, but only 56 points behind Arthur Serrier, so it will probably mean he finishes in 4th, as he has done seemingly all year. So I would say for this winter's training, if I was Max Chanet's coach, I would entitle this winter's training plan Operation 3. That's what I'd call it, Operation 3 and above, Operation Podium, because he's so good and he deserves to be up there as well, as they all do when they push themselves that hard. But when you keep finishing 4th in everything, including the World Cup and a lot of the rounds, the marginal gains need to be worked. Squeeze something out of that performance, because he's a world-class athlete, as these elites all are. We're watching Sandra Meyerhofer running out for her second lap, getting the applause of a very partisan crowd, thankfully, although there are people here from all over the world supporting athletes they're here with as well, so it's not an entirely Italian crowd, but she races with the Italian flag on her kit as well, so she'll be getting plenty of support. Where is Loane 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻. That's the question. And how much can she close up gaps on this final run, I wonder, Nicole?
Yeah, so Solène looks like she's got a fairly comfortable lead now, 2 minutes over Sandra Mayerhofer, so she's extended that lead. So I think we are perhaps seeing Solène take that third win in a row, but this is a real
Horrible.
Stinger of a climb.
Yeah.
It's
No, don't read too much into the body language, folks. You might be looking at that thinking, oh, this must be one of the back markers. They're in all sorts of trouble. Look, they're about to stop. But no, that's our world champion, double world champion and leader. It's just that steep up there, isn't it?
It is.
Right, 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 and Pattier together. We are going to have a battle on our hands between these two. Pattier, oh dearie me, Pattier's looking like she's not moving as quick as Loane 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 at the moment. They're about to go out onto their second lap. So 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 in third, Pattier in fourth. Let's remind ourselves that Alizé Pattier was the silver medalist 1 year ago. This race for her today is not going in her favour at the moment. She's been given third place for lap 1 at the moment, but 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 is now in the lead. 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 has gone past her. I have to say, by the way, I think 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 might be getting quite warm this afternoon with that long-sleeved undertop on. It's pretty nice out there now.
It is, yeah. So you prepped for the cold weather this morning, but there has been a big shift in temperature.
Yep, it's a lovely autumn afternoon now in the Dolomites, in Trentino, on the banks, the northern banks of Lago di Moveno. And they're on the same steps, but stepping away from Alizé Pattier is Loane 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻, who most consistently this season seems to have run with the best of the runners in XTERRA. Pattier is a great trail runner, but just looks like she's running through slightly heavier mud at the moment, although they're not on mud, but you know what I mean, the form is a bit more draggy. Not so much so for our double world champion at the front of the race, Solène Billon. You can see the gaps down the left-hand side as they populate in our screen top left. 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 through in fourth. Only 4 athletes through after that first run leg so far. We'll watch that as they continue to flesh out the top 10. I'll tell you where everyone is, but Loane 𝐸𝐸𝐻𝐻 now up into third, overtaking Alizé Pattier. So a French woman, an Italian and a Swiss woman, our top 3 as they stand.
I think we might see Anna Zender run her way up into a top 5 position today as well. She finished, was it 5th in the short track?
Yep.
But she's a very good runner, so I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see her running her way through as well.
Up alongside Sandra Mayerhofer. She's, well, like they all are, looking like she's going through it at the moment on this second lap. And, you know, Nicole, you know, you've been racing triathlon long enough to know what it's like, but for people who are watching, that final run of a triathlon, that run is quite unlike any other kind of run you do, isn't it? Can you describe what Sandra Mayerhofer is going through right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough coming off of a mountain bike. Like, your whole body works on a mountain bike. It's not just your legs. You're using your arms. You're working really hard on the climbs and also the descents. There's no rest anywhere. So then you get up and you're onto this run. You're faced with all these changes in terrain. There's no real chance to get into your rhythm. As soon as you find your rhythm on this nice flat section, you're then straight up a climb. And I'm not sure there's been any XTERRA or off-road triathlon course that I haven't walked on a section of the run course at some point, because it is that challenging and your legs really do start to feel it.
Sandra Mayerhofer, nice high cadence, but she has gone into this final run lap, second run lap, 2 minutes down on Solène Billon after 2.5 hours of racing. And Billon is now up into that ascent up into the forest before starting the technical downhill and the scrambly, rooty, rocky bits in the woods. As that's what I was saying, if you fancy seeing what it's like in those woods, I made a video of it yesterday. You can see it on my socials, at 𝐤𝐸𝐻𝐻, 𝐤𝐸𝐻𝐻. I've made a video running all the way through there as well, and it was hard. I was holding the camera in one hand, Nicole, and having to pull myself up on trees with the other, because that's how tough it is in there. So if you want to see it, maybe don't watch it now while the race is on, but if you go back later, you'll see a video preview of what that is like in there. And it's quite unlike what they're running on now, which is kind of asphalt and light gravelly trail. They saved the very best for last on this run leg, and quite a lot of it is very, very natural trails, effectively cutting your way through deep forest in amongst the rocks and roots and peaty, loamy soil underfoot as well. It's quite different down there, particularly when they get down to Riverside as well. It changes, it's a bit more mossy and slippy in there too.
I mean, Sandra's running incredibly fast here. You can see from the background of the rocks behind her, quite like her run speed, and that's going to drastically change as soon as they start going uphill.
Yes, absolutely. Sandra Mayerhofer, who last year was 4th. We should remind ourselves we had a fantastic Danish athlete here, Dida Dideriksen, who was the bronze medalist last year. She's not here in this year's race. In fact, she's not been racing XTERRA World Cups this year. So Sandra Mayerhofer looking to move up from 4th. I think she might be trying to get rid of our camera motorbike, if I'm not mistaken. A bit of the hand signalling there. She wants to be left alone in her own hurt locker all by herself. But she's certainly, as you say, you can tell with the background, she's moving really quickly, Sandra Mayerhofer. I don't think moving quickly enough to close up 2 minutes, but we might see her with this final push close up a bit. She started this final run leg of 5 kilometres, 2 minutes down on Solène Billouin.
Yeah, I mean, Sandra's perhaps aware of the time gap to Solène, so she's maybe just thinking about the gap behind her now. She's not wanting Loan to close that gap to her. She's wanting to hold on to that second position.
Look up into the mountains again. This is a live shot looking up into the Dolomites, looking up effectively the river which flows into the northern edge of Lake Morveno. You can't quite see the river flowing there, but it flows down the middle of that too. And in just a moment, we're going to be taking an interview with Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen, our bronze medalist from the men's elite race. Let's hear from him shortly after that finish.
Jens, you got 3rd. You've been battling these French boys all season long. How'd the race go?
Yeah, made up some ground quite fast after the swim. And then they just, I couldn't catch anymore, and they pushed it on the bike. They came with a very dominant level, which I couldn't follow. So, yeah, I didn't come for a 3rd place, but I don't know what to do other than get home and get to the drawing board.
You feeling good about your place, your overall finish in the World Cup?
Yeah, it's been an amazing season. I've been happy to stay healthy and do good at each race. I'm a bit sick of getting on the podium without winning, so I have to step up my game if it needs to stay fun for me, because I've experienced enough podiums now, and I kind of want to start winning.
It's understandable. Well, thanks for the interview. Good luck.
Well, we look forward next year to seeing what his drawing board yields. I think that's actually quite exciting, Nicole. I mean, I'm presuming somewhere down the line he's got to stop having to chase back on so much after the swim. He's a slightly built guy. We often see with the better swimmers they're just a little bit broader, a bit more muscular in the upper body. Is it? Well, what can he do?
Yeah, I mean, Jens has come from a cycling background, so he hasn't been swimming for perhaps as long as some of these other guys. He's got a bit of catching up to do, but he said today he caught a little bit on the bike, but then couldn't stay with it, so he's got some biking work to do as well.
Well, someone who definitely has no biking work needed to do is Felix Forissier. Let's hear from him.
All right, Felix, you got 2nd place today, but you've had an incredible season all year long. How did the race go today?
Yeah, the race today was pretty difficult. The shorter swim is not a good thing for me, but I tried to push hard on the swim, and after I tried to push Arthur on the limit during the bike. So I don't know if it was a good idea, but under the start of the run, I was thinking, okay, I'm good, but Saya is just incredible on the run and pretty stronger than me, so I can't do anything.
Well, today you still had a crazy good race, despite the conditions, despite the short swim. You didn't win today, but you did win the overall XTERRA World Cup. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to win the World Cup series. It was my first objective of the season, so yeah, I'm pretty happy about it, and it's all the race I do, I make a podium, so it's incredible, and I'm pretty happy, pretty happy.
You've already arrived, but the future's still bright for you. Congrats.
Thank you so much. Well,
I was mentioning this earlier in our broadcast, Nicole, when I was with Steve. I think it's it's one of those. He's one of those athletes who, if he's to go through his XTERRA career and not win a world championship, it would be a great shame for a man, Félix Farissier, who's now been, for the second year in a row, our silver medalist.
Yeah, it's still a great race from Felix today, and he should be happy with how he's performed. It's no easy feat coming second in the World Championships.
Solheim Bylwan there through the feed zone and just about to drop into the technical section, so she has just over 2 kilometres to go now until we see Solheim Bylwan come in for the win. Now let's hear from our new world champion, Arthur Serrier.
Arthur Serrier, you are already stuff of XTERRA legend, but today you did something no other male has done in history. You have won 3 in a row. Tell us about the race.
The race was spectacular with a little change on the swim. We had a shortener swim, so I was a little bit disappointed about this because it will be a different races with a strong guy on a bike and run could take the lead faster and maybe play his game in the front, but doesn't change anything, I think, because Felix was riding super fast. He was super strong on the bike, and thanks to him, because he just bring me on transition area, and after that I keep just a bit of energy, and I was super confident about me. And yeah, that's a pleasure to race here, and 3 in a row. Hopefully we have another chance next year, maybe for 4, but I think Felix will deserve to have 1 title or 1, so yeah.
I think 3 in a row allows you to rest 1 time, if you want.
I don't know, I think I really deserve to just have some time for me, because I was just remembering all the sacrifices I did this season, because it was, for me, the hardest preparation I did for a world championship, because first one was more like I was young, I just wanted it. And the second one was more like a bit relaxed. And this one I really want it. And I have some issue during the season. And right now the level is crazy. So I have really I did 3 altitude camp straight. So like, I let my home and go alone or just with my coach for maybe something like 4 months, and it's really long on altitude. So yeah, I'm quite happy, and yeah, that was my big goal. So yeah, the star, I don't know.
The stars have aligned. Can you describe your race in French?
La natation a été divisée par 2. Ça n'a pas changé grand-chose. Après, Félix a roulé super vite, comme d'habitude. Il est vraiment ultra fort. Je suis resté avec lui et j'ai fait le dos rond et j'ai essayé de garder de l'énergie. Et puis à pied, essayer de rester concentré, faire parler mes qualités. Voilà, je suis super content de cette 3e victoire.
Awesome. Congratulations. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thanks you to all the volunteers. Thanks you to everyone, and thanks you to, of course, Felix, because the victory is always better when you have a strong opponent. So yeah, he deserves to be here, and I'm quite happy. It's like a well-deserved podium for everyone, I think.
Awesome, man. Congrats, Arthur.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that. Arthur Serrier also saying that he feels that Félix Farissier does deserve to get a world title at some point in his racing life. Let's see if and when it happens. There's the top 10 as they came in. Richard Murray taking 10th place, Jules Dumas having moved back a little bit, Sullivan Midor in 7th, 𝐕ziah Midor, his dad, in 5th, the 2015 world champion. 2 Midors up there, and the dad getting the better of the little lads. Isn't that lovely to see? Yes. Max Chanet in 4th, Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen in 3rd, and then Farissier and Serrier. But that's, to me, that's the performance of the top 10 there by 𝐕ziah Midor. I know he's a former world champion, but he is one of the elder statesmen of this field. We thought his son Sullivan had got the better of him in this race, but oh no! 2 medals in the top 10. Fantastic to see from the American athletes. Let's start to focus though, shall we? In just a moment on our elite women coming in. These are the highlights of the men's race though. After that shortened swim, 750 metres. And I can't help but think that between Farissier and Serrier, they knew that Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen would try and take advantage of that shortened swim. That was Jens Roth leading out of the swim as well and celebrating it. Well, he might have done too. We didn't see that crash there either. This was the pack that formed on the first mountain climb, but it was soon to be separated, and Jens-Emil Sloth-Nielsen would start the big chase back. Félix Farissier coming into transition, heading back out, and by the second bike lap, it was Farissier and Serrier together, but not for too long, because Félix Farissier would use the final part of that bike course to get clear of Arthur Serrière in the technical sections and start the run with a bit of a gap. But as soon as Arthur Serrière got into his stride, catching Félix Farissier, it was actually there, going into that technical downhill. Serrière just opened up his hips, started to stride out, and took the first ever 3 victories in a row by a male elite XTERRA athlete. Farissier second, and Jens Emil Sloth-Nielsen third. Well, we must be getting very close to seeing Solène Bilwan come in. There's the top 10 in the World Cup standings now. A couple of changes in there. Michele Bonacina moving down, and Sebneef moving down as well. So the Italian, Bonacina, and the German Sebneef are the big movers in there. And Sebastian Caraman, the Belgian athlete, moving up to 6th as well. Spinazzi, the Italian, moving up. So Bonacina moving down, Spinazzi moving up. Maybe the impact of the home World Championships here. That is the final World Cup standings of the 2024 series. Félix Farissier, World Cup champion. Right, this is Sandra Meyerhofer in second. She is now running into the technical section. She is on that steep downhill, catching some of the athletes who are out there on their first run leg as well. Our suspicion, Nico, I guess, is that Sandra Meyerhofer is probably close to, if not on the pace to have the fastest run split. We'll see, of course, come the end, but she certainly looked like she is shifting. I wonder how much of those 2 minutes that Solène Bilwan had on her going on to this final run lap she can claw back.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see. I'm interested to see how Luan's getting on as well. So
Yep.
We saw her make that catch on 𝐿𝐸𝐸. Is she closing in on Sandra as well?
Right, let's
And
see.
here she is now.
Yep. Yeah, so she's getting, what would you say that is? We've got a timer on it, and we haven't got a timer at the moment. I'd say it's about 30 to 40 seconds, something like that,
It's
maybe?
not much, is it? And
No.
still maybe sort of 1 to 2 kilometres left of this run with the technical section to go as well. So Luan is closing that gap, so she could see herself on the second step of the podium.
Solène Bilwan looking over the shoulder there. I don't think she's looking for anyone, but she might be a little bit nervous because she knows the quality of the athletes that's chasing her. And I might be reading too much into the body language, but she does seem to be moving that little bit slower and a bit more laboured than Meyerhofer and Duvoisin as well, possibly.
I think some of that's Solène's running style, so she doesn't look like she's moving particularly fast, but she really is. And a lot of the time she posts the fastest run split of the day, but you look at the run styles and her, she doesn't look like she's running that fast.
No, you're right. It's
but
deceptive,
she
isn't
is,
it?
isn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's a little longer, slightly more like loafing stride, just quite loose and relaxed as well. It doesn't look tense, but just the leg speed is slower than Meyerhofer.
Yeah,
but then
so she's not wasting any energy with a running stride, is she?
You're right. At the end of the day, leg speed, arm speed, whatever, all that really matters is ground speed, and she certainly has it. This is her very close to exiting onto the grass here. She's seeing more of the lake now. She's about to come off the trail any moment now. She goes down a steep little ramp where she'll have to be careful because, again, it's very heavy banging on the quads as you get down to lake level. Lake level, by the way, up here in the mountains is about 850 metres above sea level anyway, so it's relatively high altitude even down here. It gets even higher as they climb on the bike up towards 1,500 metres as well on the bike leg. This is Sandra Meyerhofer out on the technical section in the woods. I'm glad you're seeing that because it gives you an idea of just how rutted and rooty it is as well. Silver medal on at the moment for Sandra Meyerhofer, who was off the podium last year in 4th, so she's definitely made improvements this year, the Italian athlete, on home turf, but chasing this woman who is aiming to become the first 3-time champion since, oh dearie me, Julie Dibbons. I should remember it was Julie Dibbons, British athlete, of course. Well, we've seen it already for Arthur Serrière today, and he's looking very much likely. How much closer can Luan Duvoisin get here? And she's looking good. She's stepping herself down. She looks like she's been off as well. She's got mud all down one side of her right leg, so I think she's fallen somewhere in the woods. It wasn't there the first lap, I don't think. She looks like she's moving fine, but next time you see her, if you have a look at 𝐸𝐸 Nicole, she's definitely muddy all down her right side. It doesn't surprise me knowing what they've gone through.
I mean, that could have been from a fall on the bike, which perhaps where she lost that time on the bike. She did lose the 2 minutes.
True.
Fairly quickly, didn't she?
Yeah, it could be that. I suspect we will hear in her post-race interview, because she's looking good for the podium. It's 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝. How close can she get to 𝐸𝐸? We saw them going out very close together. We're tracking, understandably, our defending world champion, who is stepping and striding her way towards a 3rd win in a row. She's up alongside the wall now. She is back into the town here in Molveno. She's coming off the lake path as well. The Giro del Lago is nearly over for her, because she takes this right-hander down here, steep, very steep actually, down to beach level, and then straight onto the grass. She's about 350 metres, something like that, from the finish line right now. The crowd knows she's coming, and she's rounding in on that 3rd victory in a row. It all started back in 2022 when she and Arthur Serrier won their first world titles. And the last athlete to win a world title before her was Flora Duffy. Of course, Flora Duffy, a 6-time world XTERRA champion. This is 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝 in 4th. And looking like she might mentally be willing that finish line to come. I don't see her closing. Well, I don't think she is going to close in on 𝐸𝐸. The gaps between our leading 4 women now look to be set. And 𝐸𝐸 has done what she's done all season, hasn't she, Nicole? She has just steadily worked out every different discipline to become the best cross triathlete on earth.
She has. She's such a good all-round athlete. She's great at swimming, biking, and running. She's not just got the one discipline that she's really strong at. She's really put it all together, and this is why we're seeing her win her 3rd world title.
She's on the black strip. She's got 2 or 3 little switchbacks through the XTERRA branding here in Molveno in order to get to the finish itself. We've already seen a Frenchman in Arthur Serrier win, and in this current era of French domination of cross triathlon, and XTERRA specifically, we're going to see 𝐸𝐸 take her 3rd victory in a row. And it's arguably one of her most dominant wins of the year too. She's had a great season. She's won all the short track races. She's won multiple World Cups now this year. And this, in the final round, stop 7 of the World Cup Series, the World Championship in Molveno. It is once again a French athlete measuring out every part of her course, ticking all the boxes, calmly going about everything this week. And she even has time on top of the flyover to just salute the crowd, making our camera biker have to pause and nearly falling backwards, but not quite. What a brilliant performance by 𝐸𝐸. She turns into the finishing straight, takes the applause of the crowd, and well she might. She is a 3-time world champion. 𝐸𝐸 already in tears because the emotion is starting to hit her. She's not only done it, she's done it 3 times. She is your XTERRA world champion. And understandably, Nicole, knowing what she's just achieved, I think the emotion has just hit her.
Yeah, you sort of keep it together, don't you, while you're in the race, and then it suddenly hits as you get to that finish line, and she's really achieved something quite incredible today. Absolutely.
Absolutely. What a special moment for an athlete who, just like Arthur Serrier had said in his interview, has put life on hold in order to pursue being the best in the world at something. And not just being the best in the world at something, but being that best 3 years running. It's not just about the race you've just seen. Just as Serrier said, it's about the months and months of dedicating yourself, sacrificing everything, you know, perfecting and purifying each of those 3 different disciplines: the swim, the bike, the run, the skills, the coping with crashes and bad weather, all the things these athletes having to put together to be at their best. Sandra Meyerhofer in front of the home crowd moves up from 4th to 2nd today. That's quite some improvement again. And just as I said with Félix Farissier, here's an athlete, Nicole, I guess, who we would want to, I think I would certainly say this, want to see win a world title at some point, because she is the complete cross triathlete, isn't she?
She is, and this is a phenomenal result for Sandra. You know, she's not just focused on XTERRA this year, she's done lots of mountain bike racing as well, so to be able to place 2nd when it's not been your sole focus, that's really quite a result, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You get the sense that that final ascent over the flyover ramp there is, if you like, the last thing you've got to get over. Then you turn into the finishing straight, and she is awaiting a silver medal. We'll see her in the flower ceremony, of course, but Sandra Meyerhofer in front of a home crowd, the Italian athlete, taking silver. Well, she's already tasted victory this year, of course, Sandra Meyerhofer, getting that victory in the Oak Mountain full distance race in Shelby County in America. And we're watching now 𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 of XTERRA racing, switched to the dirty side about 2/3 of the way through the year and did so with incredible efficiency, winning the European Championships in Triathlete in Czechia, and today winning a fine bronze medal at these World Championships here in Modena in Italy. She looks delighted with it, and well she might be. Great performance again by Ďubois. What a top three. Nicole, you're a former cross triathlon professional. You watch these athletes, the top level is right up there, isn't it?
Oh, it really is, and having so many strong ladies at the top of the field, it really pushes everybody on, and yeah, great performances from all these women today.
Yeah, this will be the first time these two have spoken together until they departed each other's company, and possibly, I wouldn't mind hearing what they're saying, because they're just discussing. So we'll see if we can hear it. They were together for so long, weren't they, on the bike before they became separated, and Meyerhofer taking off. At the time, she'd been sitting on Ďubois for a long time on that bike course. 𝐿𝐸 𝐵𝐺𝐻, last year's silver medalist, just about to come in, and she'll be off the podium this time, and that's a rare thing for her all season, actually, 𝐵𝐺𝐻. I don't think she'll be happy with this, Nicole. I'm not putting words into her own mouth. We might hear from her afterwards, but this is not what she came for, is it? I have to be honest.
No, it's perhaps not what she came for. She'd have really, I guess, loved to have been on the podium, but it's such tough competition at a World Championship. She's fourth in the XTERRA World Championship. You still need to be proud of that.
Yeah. And there's our top three, and here is 𝐵𝐺𝐻, last year's winner of the World Cup. This year, going into today's race in second in the World Cup standings. Silver medalist last year. That was what gave her the confidence to say, no, in 2024 I am going for the win. Not too worried about the World Cup. Yes, I'll do all the rounds, but I'm here for the World Championship. And it's just fallen away from her in this last race. It is, as Nicole says, a brilliant fourth place. But I don't think the celebration will be quite so great from 𝐿𝐸 because of the high standard and target she has set herself. You can see that as she crosses the line. Exhausted too.
It's a tough day out for everybody, and the heat now is adding the additional challenge, and even harder to have the heat, having had such a cold, chilly morning.
Yeah, it's particularly warm in our little greenhouse here as Ďubois just pours some water over the head of 𝐿𝐸 𝐵𝐺𝐻 to cool her down. As you say, it is a warm afternoon now. I wasn't expecting this, Nicole. It's turned out lovely here. Great to see our top elites supporting each other like that. 𝐵𝐺𝐻, a mix of sort of tempered emotion and also just complete exhaustion after an extremely, I think everyone says this when they see it, Nicole, don't they? An extremely worthy setting for a World Championship.
Oh, definitely. It's such a tough course out there, not only for the terrain, but then the conditions add to how tough it is.
Yeah. Well, this was the moment that it hit Solheim Bjørnson, and it really did hit her, you know. I think the full emotion of what she's achieved, becoming a three-time world champion. I don't know what's harder, becoming a three-time world champion, Nicole, or coming back the following year and seeing if you can go four in a row, because we put such a, you know, we talk about the top three going on the podium. Number three of anything is always an important marker, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and to stay at the top of your sport for that long, and to just 3 wins in a row, like, phenomenal.
Yeah, well, we'll see all three of those athletes on our podium in the flower ceremony. I think we have more than 3 up there as well, actually, so we should get a chance to see our top 5, I think. And it won't be too long before we're bringing you interviews with Ďubois, Sandra Meyerhofer. And we're watching, of course, athletes continuing to come in as well, right the way through our men's elite race and our women's elite race as well. The age groupers are already out there. Don't forget, this afternoon we're going to set up a, we have already got cameras set up on this finish line, this shot you're seeing right now, and you'll be able to see all the age groupers come in. So if you're watching and following someone from afar, make sure you stick with the XTERRA YouTube channel this afternoon, because you'll be able to see the finish shoot of all the athletes as they finish in the age group races. Don't forget, we're not finished just yet because we haven't done our podium presentation just yet and the interviews, but Nicole Walters and I will be here tomorrow. I think Steve Andrews as well will be joining me in here, and a few other special guests in the commentary box for the first ever Youth and Junior World Championships tomorrow. Look at those fantastic shots looking up into the Dolomites. What an afternoon it has been, in, as Nicola said, complete contrast to Thursday, which was, in a way, we've got the best of both worlds, because Thursday was epic because it was nasty, it was gritty, it was wet, it was muddy, we had crashes, people slipping over. You know, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, but it made it a very different kind of day, whereas today, actually, by the end of it, has become a desperate attempt to stay cool enough, and I would not have thought we'd be talking about that today.
No.
Bear in mind, we had to shorten the swim because it was so cold.
Yeah. And they're waiting to see who our fifth place lady is now.
Yes, absolutely. Big gaps in there, aren't there? Big gap back.
I imagine the athletes will be going for a cool off in the lake now.
Well, the first of our interviews is ready. It is Loan Duvoisin, the Swiss athlete, bronze medalist.
Thank you. Yeah, it was definitely a tough day, but in general, I'm really proud of my race. I think on the first loop on the back, I was really good. I was able to catch the front race, and then on the asphalt and gravel part, that was the legs were really powerful. But then when it was muddy, I really lost I think 1 minute per section. So then I really try to don't lose too much, but then I really had a big gap after the bike, and the legs were also really suffering. So then I really tried my best, and then I catch 𝐿𝐸 and I felt better on the second loop, and it missed me a bit to went back on Sandra, but really happy for
How does it feel to get back off-road?
It's really cool. It's so different because I also made the choice to don't ride so much on the mountain bike. But I think for today it was not the better solution. But I really have no regrets. I also has other races, so that was okay. But for this kind of race, you also really need a good technical level.
Well, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Well, it just goes to show, Nicole, doesn't it, that if you can make both work and combine them in the same season, racing on the road and then switching to the off-road and racing XTERRA, what a way to spend your year. Well, there we go. We'll hear from Sandra Meierhofer, the home favourite, the Italian rider, who was second. This is her.
Okay, Sandra Meierhofer, you got second at Worlds. You haven't raced much this year, but when you do, you've been pretty dominant. Can you tell us about the race today?
Oh, it was awesome. I'm really happy with my performance. It was a real battle from the beginning to the last second, so I really enjoyed racing. It was really fun. I had a good trim, had quite a good bike, and could push also on the run, so I'm super happy to take the second place.
It must feel good being from Italy to here podium.
Yeah, it is awesome to have the world champion here at Molveno. The weather was beautiful today, the sun came out, and it's awesome to have the world championship here. A lot of people cheered me on, so I was super happy on the course.
All right, congratulations on your second place.
Thank you so much.
Well, genuinely very happy sounding silver medalist there, Nicole.
I think Sandra's always happy. She loves to compete, and it's nice to see the smiles from the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking of the finish line, we will have in just a moment an interview with our three-time winner, Solène Villeroy. We look down on that beautiful blue-looking 50 metre swimming pool. It's 50 metres, isn't it?
It is,
Olympic pool. What an asset to have right at the in the heart of town there. Perfect. In fact, that shot showing you the swimming pool, the pump tracks alongside it. Makings of a little mini duathlon, or a little mini triathlon, I should say, that you could do down there for the wee little ones. You can see from there actually where they cross over, where that little bridge is at the top of the Lago di Bio, the top very edge of the Lake Morveno here. You can just see where they crossed over the road and went up into that thick forest. The thick forest to the right hand side of your picture there is the start of the mountain bike climb, where they head up in the direction of Andalo. That's where the big closing ceremony will be, and I think the possibly the after party for the elites this evening. Nicole, what do we think of these after parties for the elites? It might be quite an interesting affair.
It's nice to have one at the end of a World Championships, isn't it? And I think that's Annetta just come over in 5th position.
Yeah, 5th place for Annetta Grabmüller after her silver medal. Well, not silver medal, sorry, her 2nd place in the short track on Thursday. It's been a hard race, and actually, yeah, I think Annetta Grabmüller has lost quite a lot of time on that final run. She will have, well, she did. We saw her pushing incredibly hard on the bike to try and maintain it. I wonder, looking at the gaps there, though, whether there would have been too much difference if the swim had been twice that length. Yes, she'd have finished, started the bike further ahead, but I guess we'll never know, Nicole.
No, I mean, it might have given her another couple of minutes, but I think the race still would have played out the same way that we've seen it play out.
Yep, I think you're right. We're looking at the ski lift climbing up and away from Morveno to take mountain bikers up onto the trail-centred trails, but also take skiers up there, of course, in the winter when the ski falls and they.
So it's great to have the gondola for people to practice pre-race as well. They can take the bike on and have a good few goes at that descent.
Absolutely. Right, we have caught up with our winner, Solène Billouin.
Not 1, not 2, but 3 in a row. Solène, you got 3 world champs in a row. It was really emotional for you at the finish line. Can you tell us all about your race?
Yeah, I mean, it has been my strongest year in sport, but the hardest mentally. I've really struggled with mental health, and yeah, for weeks I didn't know what better feel like, and nothing had any meaning anymore. So, but I kept showing up. I did the whole season, and I was competitive, and yeah, I made it to September, and I made it to the World Championship again, and that's why it's very emotional. And yeah, now that's behind me, and I'm very happy. I can feel some good emotion again, and I can be myself a bit more. Yeah, and I just want to thank you, the people which were around me, and also the one which stayed but didn't really understand. That's very precious. I think life is about people around you, but also sport and performance even more. So yeah, the race was, we had a really hard fight. I get dropped on the first climb, so I thought they were faster today because my power was very good. I was watching my computer and I was pushing really good watts, but they were just going faster. And then I was like, okay, that's not my best day, and they are very strong, but I focused, and I could show my good skills in the technical part, and I was staying on the bike while they were pushing the bike. So then I was back in the game, and yeah, I just believed in myself, and I was just focused on every step and everything I could control.
You have a lot of people who look up to you and are rooting for you in all these races. So I hope you know you're an inspiration here at XTERRA.
Yeah, thank you. I really think that racing is way more than just the race itself. And when you race XTERRA, you know that.
Congratulations. Can you talk about your race in French?
C'était vraiment une course difficile aujourd'hui. J'ai eu un très bon niveau toute l'année. J'ai fait ma meilleure saison, mais mentalement, c'était vraiment dur cette année. Et je me suis accrochée. Et aujourd'hui, les filles m'ont lâché dans la première montée. Et puis j'ai réussi à revenir dans la course plus tard. Et vraiment, c'était un gros battle jusqu'à la fin. Et je suis vraiment fière de cette course.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Solène Billouin joins Flora Duffy, Julie Dibbons and Leslie Patterson as multiple winners of XTERRA World Championships. And there's the top 6 now, because Anna Zender, we talked about, you mentioned that, didn't you, Nicole, about the idea of Anna Zender being the next Swiss athlete in that top 5, just outside it. And also losing a bit of time to Annette Grabmüller. Look at the quality of that top 6. Properly world class, isn't it?
The time gap's fairly close at the end of the race as well. So 4 or 5 minutes over 3 hours of racing. These girls are really pushing each other.
Yeah, absolutely. They referenced it there, the sense of just how hard. Solène Billon was talking about how hard that bike leg was as well, and how she started to lose time on the bike. But she is the complete all-round cross triathlete, using all 3 of the disciplines to start to build her lead, and that's exactly what she did. Another great swim by Rachel Klammer, the Dutch athlete, coming out right at the front of the race, but then starting to drift back as well. Extra layers having been pulled on, going out onto the start of that cold bike lap, but then the sun came out. And during the course of those 2 laps up in the mountains, it really started to warm up today, both in terms of air temperature and racing heat. Loane Duvoisin was flying, Sandra Meyerhofer sitting in and waiting, but Solène Billon just doing her thing, as she so often has done. Out front, alone, calmly measuring out her power. But Sandra Meyerhofer using the final run definitely to her advantage to make sure she stayed clear in the end of Loane Duvoisin. Brilliant final run. I'm looking forward to seeing the splits as well from that. Very different styles between these athletes, and we saw this amazing shot of our world champion Solène Billon just desperately getting up that really steep ramp on the edge of town. Well, she'd done her 2 laps, she dropped down onto the grass, and then it hit her. 3 times a world champion. Sandra Meyerhofer the silver, and Loane Duvoisin a delighted bronze medalist. What a fantastic pair of races there we've had for the elite races, the men and the women. Proper entertainment on the shores of Lago di Moveno.
Yeah, it's always really exciting, and XTERRA brings out the best in the athletes. They train for this event all year, and they really put on a show.
Well, final preparations being made for the flower ceremonies, as we call them. We don't call them medal ceremonies because it's about the gifting of flowers and the sharing of XTERRA love on the banks of Lake Moveno. It's all going to be happening down there. And what a setting, what an incredible setting. Marta Mendito has lost some places this week in the World Cup. It's not been a brilliant week for the Italian athlete, but she's battled well. She is in 7th. She started this week in 2nd place in the World Cup, so she's lost big points both today and in the short track as well. She's had a hard week, hasn't she, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, Marta's a really consistent athlete. We see that by her standing in the World Cup here, third place in the World Cup, so she'll be pleased with that.
She will be pleased with that. She came into the week in 2nd place, so she loses a place to 𝐖𝐨𝐫𝐥𝐝, who moves up 1 spot across these 2 final rounds of the World Cup this week. Anna Zender maintaining her 4th place, but also Sandra Meyerhofer with her fine 2nd place today, moving up 1, and Annette Grabmüller moving down 1. So Grabmüller and Mendito, the 2, I don't want to use, I was going to use the L word there, not losers, but movers. Let's call them movers in that top 10 of standings. Both had brilliant World Cup seasons, but this is the final round, and this is where we sort out the final ranking, and that was provisional final ranking. There's our podium in amongst the trees here on the edge of the lake.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in the 3rd place, representing Denmark, managed to stop the clock after 2 hours 31 minutes and 7 seconds. Jens Emil Slot Nielsen!
Well, this is the man who said he's going back to the drawing board. He's tired of podiuming, he wants to win. But the question is, as you join us for the start of next year's XTERRA World Cup season, what did he write on the drawing board? What did he go away and rehash, redraw and rework on? He certainly seems set on it, doesn't he, Nicole?
He does, and I think there'll probably be some work that he'll want to go away and do on his swimming, so that he's not got to do that chasing on the bike. As I say, his biking and running is up there with the two boys on the top of the podium.
Felix Frissier, silver medal for the 2nd year in a row, but winner of the World Cup too. One of the greatest cross triathletes of his generation, a man who, as we've said, deserves to win a world title at some point. Even Arthur Serrier said that. I can't see Serrier easing up to allow him it though. That's not going to happen, because here's the man himself, the first athlete in history to win 3 world championships at XTERRA in a row. France's Arthur Serrier is your 2024 XTERRA world champion.
The overtaker, baby-faced assassin, and the cannonball for the three-peat. Now we will see who is the best at pouring champagne.
You can hear it there. Here we go. It was just about to happen, wasn't it? Careful where you put that cork. Oh, Serrier giving it a good old bang. He's not got it open just yet. Here we go. Well, I think those 3 might enjoy the after party, not least having heard about the sacrifices they've made across the course of the season.
First time I actually see Arthur drinking it from the bottle. Yes, Emil, are you drinking it as well? Yes. Felix, are you drinking? Yes, sir.
Of course they are.
Responsible drinking, Nicole. It is responsible drinking.
Time to celebrate for these athletes now.
Yeah, across the whole season. And it's not just, we talk about the 7 stops of the World Cup, but it's not just the 7 stops of the World Cup either. It's all the other races they're doing in between. And a lot of these athletes are also packing in mountain bike races, trail races, and even open water swim races as well along the way. So it's a lot of travelling, a lot of competition, a lot of sacrifice. I have to say, the other thing, Nicole, that Serrier has mentioned now is he's done 3 altitude camps this year. I would not be surprised if some of these other elites look at that, maybe even 𝐸𝐵𝐸 𝐿𝐶, think, I need to get to altitude more often.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We've seen it happen in endurance running a lot, where altitude's become incredibly important. It definitely is in cycling too. And I'm not saying, I think others in here are also doing the altitude training already, but the fact that Serrier keeps referencing it and talking about how important it is to him, that's going to resonate with the best of the elites, male and female, I'm certain.
It is. When you're already at the top of your game, you do keep looking for those little things that are going to make a big difference.
Laurent Duvoisin taking the bronze medal, and delighted with doing so too. It's been a great return to XTERRA for her this season, and she's been a winner along the way too.
In the second place, secondo posto, 2:57:35 per l'Italia, Sandra Meyerhofer.
Bigging up the Italian crowd, Sandra Meyerhofer, silver medalist. 4th last year, 2nd this year. What chance of a Meyerhofer World Championship victory next year? The mathematics points in that direction, Nicole, you know?
She's definitely got the potential to do it.
Well, we know we'll be back here in the Brenta Dolomites in Molveno next year. There might well be some tweaks to the course, another change again next year, but the 4th year in a row, the World Championships coming back to the Brenta Dolomites. Solène Billouin has won every edition of it here. This course suits her perfectly. Will she be here for 4 in a row to go alongside Flora Duffy as having won 4 in a row as well? We'll see. But after the season she's had, an incredibly worthy world champion. Well, they're shaking the bottles already. I would get out of the way if I was down there.
Our winners of XTERRA World Championship 2024, Laurent Duvoisin, Sandra Meyerhofer, and Solène Billouin.
Fantastic.
And so we have the Swiss.
As always, when we look at our podium, we remember those who are just off the podium, who are so close, but not quite on it. In this instance, Alizé Patier so close to it today, and we saw her utter exhaustion as she crossed the line. It's amazing how reviving a medal and a podium presentation can be,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, pick your spirits up with a medal and some flowers.
Yeah. In the sunshine
In
too.
the meantime, what a finish for Karina Russell and Caroline Gay.
What a fantastic moment! What a fantastic photo as well for the album. Or 2 very worthy champions, 2 returning champions, and there's the top 10 for our women's elite race today. Under 2 minutes, but only just, clawing back 8 seconds on that final lap. Sandra Meyerhofer in second, to Solène Billon, defending champion. Amanda Voisin, the Swiss athlete, in third. Alice Patier in fourth. Annette Grabmüller, after coming out the swim, in second. The Czech athlete in 5th place. Anna Zender, the second Swiss athlete, in the top 10, ahead of Marta Mendito, Emma De Croo, Rachel Klammer hanging on to 9th place after her leading swim, and Romy Spolder, her countrywoman, in 10th place as well. And we'll wait in just a moment to see what that does to the overall standings in the World Cup, but bearing in mind Solène Billon was leading the World Cup, we know where that one has gone. That will come in due course. So glad we've managed to get our drone up today, because it gives you a real impression of just how beautiful it is here in Morveno. The weather was too bad to get the drone up for the short track race on Thursday, so there we go. Well, thank you all around the world, wherever you've been watching our live coverage today. Don't forget, tomorrow we have the Youth and Junior Inaugural World Championships. Make sure you join us for that here on the XTERRA YouTube channel. Nicole Walters, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jez. It's been great today. Really enjoyed watching the racing and seeing our world champions crowned.
Absolutely. We're going to go out and enjoy a bit of the sunshine ourselves now and get out of this greenhouse. Thank you so much for being with us. We've loved having your company. Make sure you join us tomorrow to see our first ever Youth and Junior World Champions crowned. In the meantime, though, let's have a look back at some brilliant highlights from today's World Championship.